And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. As President Trump swears in Alina Habba, she will be the acting district attorney for New Jersey. And you might recognize her from the campaign, having been a legal counsel for the administration, especially between 2021 and 2025, really being that chief spokesperson for President Trump up against all of that lawfare and all of those ridiculous cases that came from not only the Attorney General of New York, but DAs throughout the country. All of those pretty much null and void and done now for the most part, but she will serve in this role as acting attorney for the District of New Jersey, so her home state. A person who graduated from Kent Place School in 2002 and attended Lehigh University, actually worked in the fashion industry for a period of time, but then went to the legal profession. So someone who has been an outspoken supporter and personal friend and special counsel to President Trump, and currently also a counselor to the president there at the White House. I really enjoyed her video when she found that studio that the last administration had produced, and that's where you saw the fake Oval Office where the AutoPen president would present whatever it was he was talking about. I don't even think he knew what he was talking about, but thank God we have President Trump in office and great leaders like Alina Habba who will be overseeing this in the meantime. So we have a swearing in ceremony there at hand for you as President Trump does that before he heads down to West Palm Beach, Florida, to enjoy a working weekend, of course, at the beautiful resort and estate of Mar-a-Lago. Lots happening today. If you were with us during the earlier broadcast, of course, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joining Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia to make West Virginia great again. So 4 pillars there focused on the health of West Virginians, whether it's simply walking that mile a day, getting involved in outdoor activities, perhaps in intramural sports, or even going back to the gym, making that commitment. He will also have Bobby Kennedy as his personal fitness secretary, if not personal trainer. So that's great to see that. And Bobby Kennedy saying he'll have the governor on the regimen of a carnivore diet, as well as other things with the goal of losing 30 pounds. They're going to have weigh-ins as well. And another part of that platform, the governor mentioning with media after that meeting and the signing of the staff to the SNAPS prowess with the Department of Health and Human Services, he will also be partaking in not only the walking, but getting West Virginians back to work as well. Apparently, the least productive state in the sense of the amount of work being produced there. So he said this is a big part of making America healthy again, not just getting the poisonous dyes out of the food and drink, but also getting people active and fit, but also getting a great job and a mindset that they can do that there and achieve that in West Virginia. Of course, America, the land of opportunity, as we await President Trump swearing in Alina Habba personally as the United States acting attorney for the District of New Jersey, her home state. And so much has gone on at the White House this week. If it was the iftar dinner that we caught last night, of course, some primetime programming right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. That is the fast breaking the Ramadan. So this meal, very holy for Muslim Americans. And many were in attendance, from those in Dearborn, Michigan, who helped put President Trump over the threshold to win the Wolverine state, and many of them Democrat mayors as well in the surrounding areas endorsing President Trump's campaign just last year, because they said although they may not agree 100% with the president on everything, they knew he was the peace through strength president who could ultimately bring dialogue and an end to the conflict in Israel and Gaza. Of course, that was perpetuated and started by Hamas and Houthi terrorists in Palestine. So we've seen those strikes recently happening just 2 weeks ago on the enemy, and President Trump seeking that peace through strength by not only going after radical Islamic terrorism, but also really building out those promises that happened in the Abraham Accords. Traditional enemies and people who did not get along for a long time, people President Trump bringing together, including many members of several different Middle Eastern nations just last night for the iftar dinner. So thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, freetrumpbook.com. Get yours now. Brought to you by the team of Mike Huckabee, the future ambassador to Israel. Hey, Senate Democrats, let's get to work and confirm these great ambassadors that President Trump met with this week in the West Wing, including the former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, and the current governor of Arkansas, his lovely daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, doing an extraordinary job as the youngest governor in America. But the free Kids Guide to President Trump and the Kids Guide to the Courage of President Trump available to you now, among other topics for the young patriots in your lives, or even that goofy neighbor next door who can't tie their shoe or mow their lawn, and perhaps they have their heads so far into the sand they're not focused on daily politics and our history. So freetrumpbook.com can help solve that problem. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling. So what a great deal that is. And with this gift bundle right now, prepares you for Christmas, just 9 months away, with their free ornament as well. So freetrumpbook.com, freetrumpbook.com, great for any celebration, or even if you have an Easter basket bundle, maybe a great thing for those young patriots at home. freetrumpbook.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, President Trump has been nonstop this week. He mentioned at the dinner last night that he did many phone calls and endorsements for several candidates coming up to the 2026 cycle. And if you are in the sunshine-free state of Florida, his home state, President Trump, his adopted home state, where he'll be headed to this afternoon via Air Force One from Joint Base Andrews to Palm Beach International. We know that the 1st Congressional District, once held by Mr. Matt Gaetz in the Northwest Panhandle, just south of Auburn, Alabama, that's a big race coming up on Tuesday. And of course, the 6th Congressional District race as well, that was held by Michael Waltz, our national security advisor, on the northeast side of the state, right near St. Augustine, the oldest municipality in America, dating back to the 16th century when the Spanish founded it. So a beautiful town if you have not been. Big for golf as well. The World Golf Hall of Fame is located there, along with many beachfront, beautiful properties, wonderful restaurants. So take a visit down to the northeast coast of Florida when you get a chance, as well as visiting, of course, our White House. You see it on the screen there, where President Trump will swear in Alina Habba as the next acting district attorney of New Jersey, her home state. So that will be exciting to see that as well. She continues her role as counsel for the president, and you might recognize her from the campaign trail, and for 4 really tough but incredible years, and he could not have done it with great legal counsel like Alina Habba, who was his chief spokesperson when it came to all the lawfare and all that nonsense we saw push through the courts. And we're seeing it continue to today. This president, 100 years, if you look at all the injunctions that took place, roughly he has 67% of that happening to him. So this guy has been under fire on a daily basis ever since he took that golden escalator with our wonderful, beautiful First Lady Melania Trump at Trump Tower in order to make America great again, to really stand on the principles, the 20 promises that became policy for the Republican National Committee back in July, the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when President Trump once again, for the 3rd consecutive cycle, accepted the Republican nomination for President of the United States. But truly what he is the independent populist who stands in the breach, who says enough of this, who since he was my age, think back to 1987, for those of you watching now who are around then, remember the Oprah Winfrey Show? She was once his best friend. And it was detailed in Letters to Trump, some of those great picture books that you can get detailing the history of our journey with this president, but also his personal journey. Oprah write these great letters. Donald, thank you for coming on the show again. My gosh, if we ran together, we could solve all these problems. But sadly, she went a deep state globalist route. She's bought and paid for by the far left. And it's okay if she has those certain opinions, but it makes you wonder, based on all of those personal notes to President Trump years and years ago, before he was as involved in politics as he is today, maybe something changed her mind. And I wonder what did ultimately, but as he said, she used to enjoy the turkey sandwich at Mar-a-Lago and a couple of slices of key lime pie. Always a good option to go to, and I love key lime pie myself. I might be enjoying that this weekend because it is delightful and delicious as we wait for President Trump to swear in Alina Habba to be the next attorney in the Garden State of New Jersey, her home state. And we are loving that sunshine that is blessing this administration and that beautiful White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And if you have the chance, please visit this summer. We saw that Melania Trump has reopened that to tours of all kinds. I believe that started last month and will continue to do so. I've gotten a tour of the first level. This is back during the Bush years, almost 20 years ago, when you could only access it post 9/11. And per the rules, the president had to be outside of the White House. So always great to go in there, and you might get a surprise visit from the president himself. So get all America First updates and exclusive offers on the right side of history right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. The easiest way to do that is go to rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. That's where you can sign up to catch all of the wonderful productions of the writers here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And then, of course, also donate if you are so generous to do so. We're citizen journalists here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, so you would go to rsbnetwork.com/donate or RSBN. You can text those letters to 801-801. Either way, please like, share, and subscribe to get all of the endless content here that covers you as your new live desk. That's what we do. We were known as the Rally Network, and we crushed that back in the fall. Millions and millions of new subscribers and watchers and viewers, and we were honored to bring you the 2024 campaign unlike anyone else really on the campaign trail. Unbridled access to those thousands and thousands, and it was so much fun to talk to you, the American patriots, who would fare the heat, who would fare snowstorms, who would fare the rain, all to get a glimpse of their favorite president. And we were right there with you, talking to you about the issues that you were passionate about, the issues that brought you to this political journey known as MAGA, known as MAHA, known as common sense at the end of the day. And we're getting a live shot now of Vice President J.D. Vance. If you watch the first stream, he's up in Greenland with our second lady, Usha Vance, on this special mission, and this outlet is run by Space Force. We know that it's going to a vote with the people of Greenland to have their independence, to declare that roughly an island of 60,000 people who no longer want to be affiliated and have ties to the Kingdom of Denmark. We know from the expert analysis of former Ambassador Carla Sands, a regular guest here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, stating that the Kingdom of Denmark does not have the financial prowess nor the military ability to keep Greenland safe and secure. The people recognize that on their very icy island, and they know that they need the United States involved one way or another. And so we'll see if that vote of independence also brings a vote to join the United States. One way or another, President Trump is committed to the annexation of Greenland to join our great country. And whether that is simply as a territory, perhaps there will be discussion of it becoming a state as well. Of course, we have 6 different territories and those delegates ongoing. We'll toss that there to the Vice President and Second Lady entering the command center.
At ease, please. Thank you all. Good to see everybody. Let's have a seat and have a briefing and learn exactly what you do here, Colonel. I will say that the Colonel was kind enough to lend me her office for a few minutes so I can get my bearings, and I'm gonna embarrass you, Colonel. So it turns out that Colonel Myers here did the polar bear plunge and got a certificate that the temperature never reached above 41 degrees. And let it be known that this task of questionable sanity was accomplished despite near-freezing temperatures, the threat of collapsing icebergs, and lusty seals. So I want to hear about those lusty seals in this briefing here.
Yeah, so Every July we do a polar bear plunge where we actually jump into the ocean, go in a few feet, spend a couple seconds and come out. Some of us do it twice or 3 times. And then you could also do it at the waterfall and a few other places. And for it, you get a certificate for your stupidity.
So to get the certificate, how long do you have to stay in?
You just have to go in. You have to go all in.
You have to go all in.
All in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are tough up here.
It's awesome.
All right. Thank you, reporters. Get out of here so we can talk about this stuff.
And it seems like we lost that footage there. You know, being a live desk, this is what happens with live TV. Sometimes you just have feeds go out. They're also in a very remote area, as Vice President J.D. Vance was mentioning there, that the temperature stays pretty cold there, 41 degrees this last week. And the colonel that he was speaking of there at the command center doing a polar plunge, so a very brave soul to jump into those cold and icy waters. We've experienced just a little bit of that down south here this year, right after the inauguration when I came back to Auburn, Alabama. They don't remove any of the water out of my pool, so it froze over. I've never seen a frozen pool before. Something very unfamiliar, as growing up in Chicago, if you're brave enough to have a pool in the Chicago area, they usually drain the water beforehand, but you don't usually have to do that down south. So when I see those temperatures and I saw those parkas, makes me glad that I am in Auburn, Alabama. And although I love the people of Anchorage, Alaska, it's a lot like Greenland. It is cold most of the year. But what's really neat is if you travel up in the summer, you get a 24-hour practically summertime. So really something unique to see, especially those beautiful northern lights. As you saw the pins of the American flag and the Greenland flag on the being of Mr. J.D. Vance, our 50th vice president, the first vice president who is a Marine Corps veteran, who spent time at Quantico yesterday in Virginia with Marines, and just the morale, it's good to see it back. Someone who is so tried and true to his background and the amazing story that is Hillbilly Elegy, that truly in this country, if you could envision it, if you work hard and you're willing to serve others, it's a boundless opportunity. Someone who graduated high school, went right to the Marines to serve after the terrible events of 9/11, who was in Iraq, who survived that conflict and met the love of his life after graduating from The Ohio State University and attending law school in order to really build a career that many in his small town did not have the opportunity to do. And someone who has overcome just about everything. And it's an amazing story. You should read his autobiography. And he is now the millennial vice president of the United States at 40 years young, the third youngest vice president to be in that role. So J.D. Vance doing an extraordinary job as vice president, and someone who in the CPAC straw poll last month, if you were watching, is the overwhelming favorite to become the nominee for the Republicans in 2028 to be the next president of the United States. So we'll be keeping a close eye on his endeavors and where he might find himself in the next few years as President Trump swears in Alina Habba in the coming moments to be the acting attorney in New Jersey. So much happening there. On a rolling basis, this president is nonstop. We saw him last night at the iftar dinner, if you caught that wonderful coverage here in the prime time. That is a ceremonial dinner. It's the fast-breaking meal out of Ramadan, a holy time for Muslims to really scale back on the pleasures in life and to reflect upon coming closer to God in the meantime. Very similar to the season of Lent, which many Christians are celebrating at this time, leading up to Easter as well. So many in attendance from various different countries, many who were involved in the Abraham Accords, including Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. So that was probably the biggest success for peace in years and years and years, probably the most significant for the Middle East since the Carter years with the Israel and Egyptian agreements, the Camp David Accords, if you remember that. We'll toss it live now to the Oval Office, President Trump and Alina Habba taking this new role as acting attorney in the Garden State of New Jersey.
Would do the honors, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus, and on this very divine appointment of Alina Habba, we thank you that you have chosen her before the foundations of the earth. I ask that you would give your wisdom according to James 1:5. And as she moves into this new season and this divine appointment, that she will protect the innocent, that she will always rule righteously, that she will stand in your peace and reign in truth and justice. I secure her family, her life, her calling, and her purpose. We thank you for President Trump. We thank you for this opportunity for all. Secure this in the name that is above all names, the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you very much, Paula.
Thank you, sir.
Before we begin, we have a little announcement. It's just going to be put out over the wires that Skadden Arps, the highly respected firm, Skadden Arps, Slate, Meagher, and Flom, announced the following agreement regarding a series of actions that were taken by Skadden. And it reads, number one, Skadden will provide a total of at least $100 million in pro bono legal services during the Trump administration and beyond to cause that the president and Skadden both support. This is something we both support in relation to the following areas: assisting veterans and other public servants, including members of the military, law enforcement, and on and on. Number two, Skadden will commit to the mission of providing pro bono legal services to a wide variety of deserving organizations and individuals. Skadden is committed to funding no fewer than 5 Skadden Fellows. That's a scholarship fund that they've set up. And number three, and again, we're going to put this out in much greater detail, the Skadden affirms and commits to merit-based hiring, promotion, and retention. Again, that will go on for a little while, and you'll read that. And Skadden will not deny any representation to clients, such as its members or members of politically disenfranchised groups who have not historically received legal representation from major national law firms, etc. So this is going out now, and I'm instructing my people to release it. And this just was announced, so you can you'll get it in. This was essentially a settlement, and you'll be able to read that in great detail. We appreciate Skadden's coming to the table. As you know, other law firms have likewise settled the case, and it's a shame. What's gone on is a shame, but we very much appreciate their coming to the table. But we're here for, right now, a different reason. It's a very important one, because today we're thrilled to swear in our interim U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba. Congratulations, Alina. And I want to just congratulate, along with your husband, Greg, and your children, your wonderful parents who I've gotten to know over the years, great parents, and a great family, so congratulations. And to Luke, Chloe, and Parker, that's great. You're proud, right, of your father and your mother, right? Both. Not just your mom, right? Your father, too. He's done pretty well. He's a good guy and very successful man. I also want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi. She's been incredible, by the way. She's, I don't want to brag, but I've been watching her for the last couple of weeks, and she's been incredible. Thank you very much, Pam. And a couple of others who have been really outstanding. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. Thank you, Howard. Thank you very much. And I think I see Scott there. He has been, this is somebody at the Treasury. Nobody's going to outfox Scott, right? Nobody. And he's waiting for Liberation Day, right, which is April 2nd. We wanted to do it April 1st, but that has some negative connotation. And I see Sebastian Gorka there. Thank you, Sebastian, very much. That's very much. Kevin, thank you very much. We have great people. Susie Wiles, most powerful woman in the world. She was just rated the most powerful woman in the world. If you think about it, I guess it's true when you think about it. Anyway, thank you, Susie. And Director Kash Patel. Where's Kash? Kash is fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Kash. So Alina is a proud New Jersey native. She was born and raised in Summit, and now lives in Bernardsville with her family, beautiful area of our country. After a career leading a successful law practice in the state, very successful, Alina joined my legal team several years ago and helped spearhead the effort to defeat the corrupt and grotesque weaponization of our justice system. She was very effective at doing it, and I want to thank you for doing it. You took a lot of abuse, and now they're all sort of apologizing. So anyway, but we appreciate it. Great job you did. Thank you for allowing her to do it, because your life wasn't made any easier, was it? Huh? They even came after him. They didn't come after the kids. They would have waited about a year or two. You're very lucky. You're very lucky. But through her work, Alina became a nationally recognized warrior for the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. She also served as a key member of my successful 2024 campaign for president. You saw her doing a lot of explaining and doing it very well. And upon my inauguration, she joined the White House as senior staff. She was a senior staff member as the counselor to the president, and she counseled me very well. Alina has been named to the Super Lawyers Rising Stars list every year since 2014, and also earned a spot on the top 100 lawyers in America numerous times. As a young person, it's very unusual to have achieved that. As U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina will work tirelessly to weed out crime and corruption and restore law and order to the Garden State, as we call it. It's the Garden State. It's a great place. I think it's highly underrated. It's a great place to be and to live, and we all love it. Under the last administration, violent crime in New Jersey, however, rose more than 60%. And under the last administration, violent crime throughout the country rose at levels that are higher than that and unacceptable. And we're bringing it down, and we're getting rid of a lot of bad people. They're being taken out. And we hope this court system that's become so active all of a sudden in trying to protect some very, very bad people of crime, they have to stop. They have to let us do the job. We were elected to do the job. They shouldn't be interfering in that. It's a very sad thing that's going on. Nobody can even believe it. They'd rather have them stay in our country. These are murderers in many cases and people about as bad as we've ever seen. And they have to let us do the job. They have to let Cash and Pam and everybody else do their job. Alina will take on the violence and the law-breaking in Newark, however, and Camden and all parts of New Jersey, and she'll be as good as it gets because there's a lot of bad things happening there, too. She'll stop the graft and corruption in Trenton, and she'll persecute human traffickers, gang members, illegal aliens, and criminal cartels to the fullest extent of the law. And between Pam and Alina, you don't want them after you, I can tell you. I watched Pam 2 days ago talking about what was so unfair to a patriot, what was happening. And she said, "We're watching you, we're looking for you, and you're not going to get away with it." You did very well. I think a lot of that stuff has stopped. They watched and they said, who needs this, right, Pam? So thank you very much. Really amazing job that you're doing. So, Alina, I want to congratulate you now. I will ask Pam, our Attorney General, to come up and do the honors of swearing in. And this is a great day for law enforcement in our country. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I, Alina Habba, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any
Thank you so much, President Trump. Thank you, Pam Bondi. Thank you, more importantly, to every person in this room. There are so many people that I won't even try to start naming them. I would not be standing here today if it was not for the man to my right. If, as a person who's a first-generation American with parents that came in legally, I would like to say that I do not ever take for granted that every dream that I ever could have imagined, I have surpassed because of this administration, because of President Trump. 4 years ago, he entrusted faith in me as his personal attorney, and I have been on the journey of a lifetime every single day for that. But I have also been with him through some very dark days when I lost faith in our justice system, when I saw things that I never, ever thought I would ever see. And from being outside the courtroom steps, defending him and defending our great nation, I saw the most resilience I've ever seen in my life. This man kept fighting for America, and I'm just so honored that now I get to fight for the state of New Jersey. I will do a good job, sir. I will clean it up, and we're going to make New Jersey great again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President, Canada's Prime Minister says that they will be implementing retaliatory tariffs. You said if that were to happen, that you would be responding with large-scale tariffs. Will you be following through with that promise?
Well, absolutely, but we had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens, but we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, because, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, you know, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. They actually, many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And I don't blame them as much as I blame the people that stood, in this case I can say the men, because so far they've been all men, haven't they? But the men that sat right there and behind the Resolute desk, mostly the Resolute desk, you know. I don't know if you know, you have a choice of 7 desks. The Resolute is the one I like, but some chose other ones. But they sat right behind a desk right in this location, and they let our country be hurt very badly. But I didn't do that. So, but we had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, how is the talks with India on tariff going on, and what is the expectations from India? How much do you want them?
Well, as you know, Prime Minister Modi was here just recently, and we've always been very good friends. India is one of the highest tariffing nations in the world. You know that. I know. Thank you for shaking your head, but it's brutal. It's brutal. They're very smart, and he's a very smart man and a great friend of mine, actually. And we had very good talks. I think it's going to work out very well between India and our country. Very, very well. And I want to say you have a great Prime Minister.
Mr. President, there's been a very serious earthquake in Burma and Myanmar today, with up to several hundred killed.
Yeah.
The military regime there has asked for help from anybody.
Yeah, we're going to be helping. We've already alerted the people. Yeah, it's terrible what's happened. It's helping. We've already spoken with the country. Okay, please.
Mr. President, yesterday you asked Representative Stefanik to stay in her seat. Can you explain your reason for that? Did it have anything to do with the tight polling in the Florida district that former Representative Waltz held?
Well, I think we're doing, I think we had, as you know, we have a few elections going on. And she is phenomenal, number one. She is a friend of mine, and she was going to go to the United Nations. And I said, look, there's a lot of room for doing that or something else. But she's very popular in her district, and I didn't want to take a chance. I don't even know who else is running. I assume somebody else would have been running. But if she runs, she can't be, you never want to say can't be beaten, but I think can't be beaten. She's very, very well-liked and very smart. And I said, Lise, would you do me a favor? We cannot take a chance. We have a slim margin. We don't want to take any chances. We don't want to experiment. And she polls like I do. I won her district, as you know, by a lot of points. and she also does very well there. When it comes to Florida, you have two races, and they seem to be good. It's a Trump plus 32 area. The one thing is they're spending like $12 million, and our candidate doesn't have that kind of money, spending much less than that, like maybe 1/12, about $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million. So the airwaves are blanketed, and you never know what happens in a case like that. I won it by 32 points, and it's very, very strong. It used to be Democrat, but when I came along, they liked me for whatever reason. You'll have to explain that, but they liked me, and we're way up. But you don't know what happened. Second district, who seems to be in pretty good shape, but likewise, he's being outspent about 5-1. So we don't want to take any chances. So I went to Elise and I said, Elise, do you mind? Very highly rated person, you know, she was a real leader. And she will be again. I spoke with Mike Johnson. They're going to put her in a high leadership position. But will you mind staying in Congress? Because we don't want to take any chances. And it's as simple as that. It's basic politics. It's politics 101. She's very popular. She's going to win. And somebody else will probably win, too, because we did very well there. I did very well there. But the word probably is no good. So I really appreciate her doing it. She's doing me a big favor when she does it, because she was all set to go to the United Nations, and she would have dealt with Putin and Zelensky and everybody else, and she would have been very effective. But we really don't want to take any chances because it is tight.
Mr. President,
go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. You and your team apprehended a top 3 leader in the violent gang MS-13 yesterday, just 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. What has made you and your team so effective in finding, locating, apprehending, and deporting these violent, illegal migrants?
I love this guy. I wish more people would ask questions like that. But thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate it. And they happen. All you're doing is being fair with you when you ask a question in that way. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all of the rest of law enforcement. And I think we have to include ICE and Border Patrol, you know, Paul of Border Patrol, the whole group from Border Patrol. They're so incredible, and it's, you know, dangerous stuff, hard stuff, and it's really an unforced error, because these people were allowed into this country, and they shouldn't have been in this country. They would have never been in this country. We're getting rid of some of the worst criminals in the world. They came out of jails and mental institutions from all over the world. But Pam and the whole group, and Kash, who's here, and it's so good to have him. I see him all over. He's working 24 hours a day, but the job they've done is incredible. And they caught one of the worst criminals in the world, I guess, in terms of evilness. You don't get any worse than the MS-13 guys and the Tren de Aragua guys. It's you could flip a coin. It's a rough group. And, you know, the big thing is they have to be able to do their job. I know I was watching it on television like you, and I saw the home that he lived in a good area, but boy, they had a lot of weaponry in there, right? Highly sophisticated, really brutal stuff. So I appreciate the question, and I just want to thank Kash and Pam and the whole group for doing a fantastic, and the local law enforcement who's been so terrific. Even first responders. So I want to thank everybody, and thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to say, first of all, happy Women's Month. You do so much for women by, first of all, keeping men out of women's sports, and you platform so many.
That was an easy one. That was crazy.
You platform so many great women, like your Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. You also have Caroline Levitt doing a great job as press secretary. Now Alina will be joining as well. Since Democrats seem to struggle answering this question, I wanted to ask you, what is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me, because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women. And that's got to be about a 94%. I read today it was a 94% issue. And I watched the other day, a Congressman, a Democrat congressman, fighting for the fact that men should be allowed to compete essentially in women's sports. And I say I hope they keep that going because they'll never win another election. That's a big deal. But women are basically incredible people, do so much for our country, and we love our women, and we're going to take care of our women. Yeah.
What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by many people. That was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it, and I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York, where he had a rough road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but they say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. He supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him. It was in Utah, and they went after him. They went after his family. They went after his businesses. And he was, I believe, exonerated, and then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan, and he had nothing to do with Manhattan. And they got him, and I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump, and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group. They're violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and even thousands of stories, and they went after this man. And when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person. And basically, I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well, all top-of-the-line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There are many such cases, by the way, many such cases.
Should Americans buy cars now if they want to avoid higher prices?
Thank you, Mr. President. Have you spoken with Vladimir Putin about buying weapons from Iran and from North Korea?
Not about specifically that, no, I haven't.
Well, that seems to be an issue that you want to make important is...
Well, I'm making all issues important. You got a lot of important issues. You also have the children issue that's important. You know, a lot of children are living in Russia right now. That's a horrible situation that would have never taken place if I was and the country is being decimated. But, you know, they're losing 2,500 on average young men, mostly men, almost in all cases men, actually, but young men every single week, 2,500, and they're not from our country. They're from Ukraine and they're from Russia, but it's human lives, and if we can get it stopped, and I think we're making progress. But there's a lot of ill will between the parties.
Should Americans buy cars now if they want to avoid higher prices? And then just to follow
No, I don't think so. I think you're going to have a country that's going to boom. I just spoke to Tim Cook of Apple. He's investing $500 billion in the United States, which he would have never. He told me, I would never have done it if you lost the election, and I would have never done it if there wasn't a tariff system that is an incentive for people to come. And remember, there are no tariffs. All you have to do is do your work right here. If you have your company here, if you build your product, make your car, or whatever it is you're making, no tariffs. And we're going to have, I think, Scott, I would say we're close to $4 trillion, even going close to $5 trillion. Now, we haven't had that for years. If you add up years, they haven't invested like that. And here we are in 2 months. We think we're up to close to $5 trillion of investment. They're going to build car plants. They're already building. Many of them have already started. And if you build a car in the United States, and one thing that I just spoke with John Thune about, I just spoke to Mike Johnson about, Speaker, we're going to do something that has never been done in this country before. I'm very proud to say it was my idea. And so sometimes a simple idea, they say, how'd you think of that one? It's so simple, it was never done. If you buy a car in the United States that's made in the United States, if it's manufactured here, when you borrow money, if you borrow money, you have interest payments, we're going to let you deduct the interest payment for income tax reasons. And I think that's going to more than pay for itself. I think people are going to be, they've never had a deduction. You know, deductions are supposed to be for like rich people, and it's unfair to have that. But rich people are I think I know more about deductions than any human being on earth. But, you know, the truth is that people that are middle-income people that buy a car and actually have to borrow money, they're going to now get an interest deduction on their car if it's made in the United States. If it's made someplace else, that won't take place. But car companies, as you know, are already expanding and building new plants. They've already started. And I think you're going to see numbers. Howard, you're seeing it, and Scott, you're seeing it. You're going to see numbers the likes of which you've never seen before. Yeah, please go ahead.
The Vice President is in Greenland right now. Do you have plans to expand U.S. military presence in Greenland? Is that...
We get along very well with Greenland. We get along very well with Denmark. We've always had a good relationship. Denmark does a lot of business in the United States. We don't do so much there, but they do a lot of business in the United States. And I think they want to see, I think everybody wants to see that work out. We need Greenland, very importantly, for international security. We have to have Greenland. It's not a question of, do you think we can do without it? We can't. If you look at Greenland right now, if you look at the waterways, you have Chinese and Russian ships all over the place. And we're not going to be able to do that. We're not relying on Denmark or anybody else to take care of that situation. And we're not talking about peace for the United States. We're talking about world peace. We're talking about international security. And right now, you look at it, you have warships all over the place going through right along Greenland. We're not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen. Or if it's going to happen, we have to be protective of our country. And more important, really protection not only of our country, of the world. So Greenland is very important. In modern day weaponry makes Greenland 100 years ago, less so. But also,
would you like to visit Greenland?
If you notice, also some of those, you could call them roadways, okay? They're water roadways. But some of those areas are opening up, and they're opening up icebreakers out there. They're opening them, and by just nature, they're opening up, and they're headed right into China, right into Russia, and we have no choice. The answer is he's there with his wonderful wife, Usha. They're there right now. They landed a couple of hours ago, and they will represent us well. But Greenland's very important for the peace of the world, not us, the peace of the entire world. And I think Denmark understands it. I think the European Union understands it. And if they don't, we're going to have to explain it to them.
Would you like to visit Greenland?
Iranian drones are attacking Ukraine every day.
That's it.
Iranian drones are attacking and killing Ukrainians every day. Why aren't you doing something about that?
Well, we're going to see what happens with that. I'm getting reports on that, and we're looking at a report. You're right. They make a lot of drones. Iran makes a lot of drones. They make very effective drones, too. They do very effectively at some things. But Iran is very high on my list of things to watch. And as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently. And I said, you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. And we're going to either have to talk and talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran. And I don't want that to happen. Big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness. My big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Guys, let's go. Come on, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Quickly, everybody. Thank you.
Let's go, guys. Thank you. Let's go.
Thank you, guys. Please wrap up your stuff as fast as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, sir. Yes, again.
And there you have it. Alina Habba, the next acting attorney for the Garden State of New Jersey, President Trump holding that swearing-in ceremony with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And of course, there's a live shot there of the space base, Pituffik Space Base, specifically for the Space Force. Its outlet in icy Greenland, as Vice President J.D. Vance enjoying time at Space Command, along with the wonderful troops there, taking some pictures with his lovely wife, our second lady, Usha Vance. And I'm excited about this. This is probably the thing I'm most excited about in the next few weeks and months. And my goodness, those parkas, it makes me so happy to be living the friendliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, where I normally don't need to wear that, as I did growing up in the Chicago area. And of course, when I was reporting all the way up in Anchorage, Alaska. That was quite an experience, but as Alaska was not truly Seward's folly, as people have put it over the years, it became a strategic outpost not only for our military, but for global trade. And it helps us dominate the Pacific against enemies and threats like the Chinese Communist Party, but also Greenland would serve the same way for the Atlantic. If we are to secure that, we perhaps have, along with that beautiful dome that President Trump wants to replicate, that the Israelis do as well. I mean, we'll be safe. We'll be sea to shining sea, with really no worries at hand, including a closed border, including the ending of fentanyl trafficking and human trafficking, as we saw Secretary of State Marco Rubio this week in Guyana, and of course, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in Colombia and El Salvador, really detailing everything we're working towards to stop these evil trades that harm Americans and harm people, some of the most innocent, sadly, throughout our world, as Colombia and Honduras are just two of South American countries where exporting of human trafficking happens with so many young children. And it's just an awful thought. If you've seen great films like The Sound of Freedom, we are becoming more and more aware of the evils that are out there, not only thanks to this new media, but also thank you to President Trump and his commitment to peace through strength. It's part of the agenda, as well as that Make America Healthy Again movement that is really serving so many across our great country, including today with the governor of West Virginia, Patrick Morrisey. He said he's going to do this diet. He wants to lose 30 pounds in the next few months. And his personal trainer is going to be none other than our Secretary of HHS, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So that'll be exciting to see. A carnivore diet, walking a mile or two a day, hitting that gym, doing some intramurals, even as you get older in age too, or even if you're younger, why not go out and golf? It's a great way to get some activity, as President Trump does. I hope he gets to hit the links again this weekend. Just 2 weekends ago when we were with him, he won his club championship, and sadly it might be the last one he enjoys, but seemed to have a lot of fun with that. And even the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, needs that R&R every now and again. What you're looking at live there is the Department of State, and it will be Tammy Bruce, the State Department spokesperson, who will be getting to that momentarily on all of the updates going on throughout travels this week. And isn't it great to have a cabinet who has so many media personalities or people who are good with media, with any given role that they had, whether it was Pete Hegseth, our SecDef, doing an extraordinary job in protecting the American people, recruiting more numbers for our military, and doing PT with them. He was actually at the Manila American Cemetery honoring the fallen of 17,000 there, and doing some PT with troops as well. But of course, he was a great morning show host and really got to address so many of these issues with the American people and learn more because of his career. Also a decorated veteran in his own right. Or Kristi Noem, who was the governor of South Dakota and really qualified so much for that DHS post, because South Dakota actually home to many of our strategic bases and a nuclear stockpile. So something that she knows well. Also, Secretary Burgum, when he was governor of North Dakota, mentioned that many of those stockpiles there in the Dakotas, and that they would sit in those high-level intelligence briefings with people of both administrations. So this cabinet, perhaps the best ever assembled of Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, focused on making America wealthy again and making America truly strong again, focused on not defaulting, focused on that national debt that's growing day by day, and reducing your credit card interest that is part of the reason why things are so high and the inflation was through the roof during Autopen Biden, because they were making bad policy calls, whether it was intentional or whether it was just an ineptitude. I mean, they were truly one of the worst administrations in American history, and so much so even the great Bill O'Reilly mentioning that in his roll call of the greatest presidents and the worst presidents. Joe Biden, number 2 on that list, and it went against his own rule of not wanting to name necessarily modern presidents, say, in the last 25 years, because history still has to determine some things over the course of that. And Sometimes you see things, see the forest through the trees when you have the luxury of time to look back upon certain policies enacted by certain administrations. But I think it's clear cut that an administration that bloated the bureaucracy, skyrocketed our debt, put 88,000 IRS agents into place, that botched exit from Afghanistan, leaving 13 young service members dead, just an atrocity. To watch even residents of Afghanistan, those citizens, trying to get onto our bombers as they were exiting, and then to leave millions and millions of military equipment, tanks and planes and secrets, all left there for the Taliban government, now for the Chinese to have moved in on that. Thank God that President Trump is back in office. Thank God that we are making the moves that will end up depleting the power and prowess of the Chinese Communist Party, whether it be in South America or all the way to Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan. President Trump knows how to handle these situations, and he does it with a robust military, ever increasing and ever growing, in order to protect this great nation. And perhaps Tammy Bruce will touch on some of those developments that have taken place with the Peace Through Strength agenda just this past week. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, AngelPaste.com. Experience the miracle today at Angel Paste, whether it's those vitamin Bs in that beautiful miracle cream, which you can see on your screen there. I've tried some of this on the network, and my dry hands went to glowing, beautiful, wonderful, and refreshed. And there's nothing more awkward, especially when you're in a sales meeting and you shake hands and someone notices that you have the dry, cracked hands, and it's just, it's not good for anyone. But if you look at the orange options, the immunity, vitamin C is infused in that, so it can help keep you nice and healthy during these sick months, going from winter to springtime, and then to summer. Sometimes you can get those colds or those flus. This protects you from that. And for the guys, the all-natural facial sprays, and it will have you ready for a night on the town. We hope you paint the town red tonight and into Saturday, as it is Friday night in America forthcoming. But this afternoon, roughly 1:45, thank you for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network and AngelPaste.com, a Christian-based company hiring veterans committed to you and the American people. Why not spend your dollars where it matters with great patriots who you can trust? AngelPaste.com. Thank you. Out of Spring, Texas, off of the Gulf of America. And have you had a chance to see that Gulf of America, that big, beautiful, bold body of water, which it makes a lot more sense now that it's called by its proper name, because we are on the continent of North America. Just to the south of us is South America. We live in the Americas, and we are America. We are the superpower. We are the best country in the Northern Hemisphere. Heck, we're the best country in the world, but we are making it safer and stronger again, and making sure that our education systems and our health systems and that your federal government truly are working for you, the American people, once again. And it's great that we could celebrate this month of March as we come to a close with the Irish American Heritage Month and Women's History Month. And President Trump honoring that. You can see that through his True Social. If you subscribe to that wonderful platform, at Real Donald Trump, check out the latest of what he has to share. And we do that with our Trump Truth sections on a regular basis here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, and the White House now on True Social as well. You can find them at White House. So go to @White House, and you'll be set and ready to go with all of that goodness and all of those wonderful updates from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the official address in Washington, D.C., the residence of President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. And as we are waiting a U.S. Department of State daily press briefing, this will be with Tammy Bruce. We're thankful that you are here with us, the American people, watching Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, we are on the right side of history with you for commentary, opinion, also deep analysis into the Beltway and outside of the Beltway. If you have an America First story that you are longing to share, or perhaps there are big government issues or just jerks that are serving in your municipality and you want us to know about it, please feel free to reach out to us at feedback@rsbn.tv. That's feedback at rsbn.tv. We'd like to hear about all those stories that are affecting your neck of the woods and everything going on in your corner of this great country. And we know so much happening here this week with Hyundai pouring billions of dollars into the American experiment. With steel manufacturing and automobile production, it looks like it will be an all-time high. And these tariffs definitely work for President Trump and this administration as we await April 2nd, just next week, will be Reciprocal Tariff Day, another Liberation Day here, according to President Trump, and we are excited for that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network to see all of this wealth pouring back into the United States. Of course, Vice President Vance is also live in Greenland. We've been going back and forth on the earlier stream and right now to his comments as he's been meeting with troops at the space base up there in cold and nippy Greenland. And we will have some commentary from him once again. And there is the seal of the Vice President of the United States. When that is up, it means he is going to talk momentarily to our troops. And he has been a highlight this week at Quantico Base in Virginia, doing some rounds of shooting and enjoying some lunch with our troops there as well. A fan favorite, wearing that hat, once a Marine, always a Marine. So good to see that mentality back in the White House, serving those who serve us. And he is the first Marine veteran to serve in the role of the vice presidency. And perhaps one of the youngest. Well, not perhaps, he is. He's the third youngest vice president to sit in that role at 40 years young. And we at the network are eagerly awaiting his political future because as politicos, not that deep state magazine, but rather fans of the process as we are here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, you're always engaged and wondering what is next for the rising star, J.D. Vance. This is a gentleman who dominated at business. He postponed college, used the GI Bill, served as a Marine in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is after 9/11, those brave souls who voluntarily chose to do that. His story, Hillbilly Elegy, worth a read, worth watching that movie, and that story about, his mother who was deeply addicted to drugs and his mama, his grandmother who raised him. J.D. Vance living the American dream, and you can do the same. You can break the cycle of destitute that might befall an area code or might befall your neck of the woods here in America. And really, regardless of your background, regardless of sexual orientation, skin color, your chosen place of worship, you can rise above whatever that might be. And it's not easy, but it's those challenges that shape us into who the people we are today. And there's no greater example in the American ethos right now than that of J.D. Vance, who is serving so well and so selflessly, and I think proved, especially during that debate with Governor Tim Walz on the campaign trail, that he was truly the best choice to be the next vice president of the United States. Donald Trump knows how to spot talent. There's no question about that. Whether it was on The Apprentice or whether it was building the Trump Organization empire into a real estate juggernaut. Look at what they've done now, Don Jr. and Eric, especially with the golf. And I mean, it's just world class if you stay at one of these beautiful Trump buildings in and around so many beautiful cities throughout our world. They know a thing or two about money, and he mentioned it going up against that crooked Hillary Clinton. Oh, what a piece of work she is. I mean, still commenting on a number of different things. I mean, she actually had the gall to laugh during the inauguration when President Trump said, we're changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Well, the joke's on you, Hillary Clinton, because you will never be president. And it makes me so happy and joy-filled. And I smile every day knowing that you will never ascend to the American presidency because you are someone who has harmed so many lives in the process of public service. I say it in quotations because you and your husband became rich off of it. And sadly, so many of these politicians do. And it is now time for accountability. The people who were investigated have now become the investigators. And many of us are eagerly awaiting to see how those problems and the spy fair that took place with Crossfire Hurricane, with the Steele dossier, with the Hillary Clinton campaign literally spying on Donald Trump's campaign back in 2015 and 2016, how that narrative will ultimately end. As we know, many deep state activists, whether Republican or Democrat, did their best to unseat a duly elected president of the United States that we might be able to forgive in this situation, but we remember, we're aware of those snakes that were involved in our government and this deep state beast that is coming to an end. It's such a glorious time to be in America and to have seen the last few years. I mean, look back at 2021. At this time, roughly 4 years ago, so many of us banned from Twitter, Facebook, different social media outlets. This was prior to Truth Social. This was when, Parler and Getter were trying to get on up there, and they're doing a great job as well, in some cases with new ownership. But look at all of the free speech that has come onto the internet once again, and with Elon Musk acquiring X, lending a hand and an arm and really a leg to everyone fighting for freedom and the Constitution in the 21st century. So how quick things can turn for the better when you remain in that fight, when you remain willing to draw that line in the sand and saying, this will not come to be. You will not pass this line. You will not push people down. We will dialogue and have free speech and have more understanding. President Trump and Vice President Vance committed to that on a daily basis as we await his remarks after meeting with military members up at the Space Force base in Greenland. And these are some of the best, as Vice President Vance and Usha Vance, our lovely second lady, sat down to lunch with them. We heard some of the audio talking to members of the military here in Greenland and mentioning that some are from Texas and from around the country. This assignment pretty tough because it's cold up there, but also the fact that many are away from their family for over a year. And that can, really play games with your mind when you're away from your loved ones and missing those monumental moments and those big holidays. And there's no one better than those who choose to wear this uniform voluntarily to defend the United States and in turn, really the safety of the world, because so goes America, so goes the world in so many cases, but with a new and bold approach. Our founders warned us of entangling alliances and things that will ultimately hurt us. And this was the problem with the last predecessors, the living presidents. President Trump is the antithesis to their globalism and their stands that ended up hurting America, whether it was through NAFTA, whether it was through the Iraq War and other engagements that did not seek to serve us, but rather served others and actually harmed us in the process. And that's why Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been clear-cut and answered questions yesterday in Guyana when making those great deals over energy and military with our newfound friends in South America, that any policy that does not serve America first and that does not serve a peace through strength agenda given by the American people and the mandate that they voted for, putting President Trump back in office way back in November, then we simply won't pursue it. That's just where it stands. It's clear-cut, it's straightforward, it's easy to understand, and it makes me look back on the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, of course the Obama and Biden administrations, and how willing and able they were to just punt American sovereignty out the window. And it was terrible to watch that. It was terrible to watch our military members suffer in engagements that were not just. It was sad to see them die, as Elon Musk mentioned this week with Russia and Ukraine. How can you tell parents, how can you tell spouses, the Gold Star families, that their child or spouse or whoever it may be, their family member, brothers, aunts, uncles, that they died for this? For what? For nothing. And for a stalemate that has cost the lives of over 1.5 million Ukrainians and Russians. It's a lot of explaining to do in the past administration. There's a lot of explaining to do with the 13 lives that were lost in Afghanistan with the botched exit. And that's why President Trump took that stand, came down that golden escalator, and said, enough is enough. We need to seal our border. We need to start fighting for the American dollar, fighting for higher wages. And that's what we saw in the first term. That everyone, regardless of in the upper class, middle class, lower class, regardless of background, regardless of socioeconomic status, everyone was doing better just 4 short years ago when President Trump left office. And then we've had 4 years of Mr. Auto Pen Joe Biden, who told House Speaker Mike Johnson, I didn't sign that, Mike. What are you talking about? When it came to green energy and other things. And the speaker saying in their first meeting together, you know, Mr. President, yes, you did. We can go to our secretary and see those documents. It's like, Mike, I didn't do that. So clearly cognitive decline that we had to put up with. And it's a miracle that nothing worse happened. But so many people's lives changed because of the COVID pandemic, because of the failed leadership of Joe Biden and his comrades. But I'm just happy that we're living now in 2025 on this Friday, March 28th, a beautiful day in America, springtime, as we're coming to a close of really my favorite month of the entire year, Irish American Heritage Month, brought to you by none other than President Donald Trump. And his celebrating not only women, not only the Irish people, but really everyone, especially at that iftar dinner last night. If you saw some of our primetime coverage with Mr. Matthew Alvarez, focused on this wonderful dinner that breaks that Ramadan fast. And it's traditionally celebrated in the evening. Iftar, very similar to Lent, which Christians practicing around the world right now, leading up to Easter. And of course, Paula White, the faith coordinator, the leader there, who we saw say a beautiful prayer before Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, swore in the newest acting attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, just earlier today. So if you're looking on with us now, we are awaiting Vice President Vance making remarks in Greenland. It is about 5 minutes to 2 o'clock on the East Coast, still morning on the West Coast. So good afternoon and good morning to everyone viewing us throughout the great US of A and maybe perhaps internationally. So it would be nice taking a moment on YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're watching from, and whatever stream you're watching on. Please comment and share where you're watching from today. And make sure that you go to rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. That's where you can watch unbridled access to just about everything of President Trump, Vice President Vance, of course, the 119th Congress, inside and outside the Beltway. With our triple screen here, we are awaiting Tammy Bruce, the Department of State spokesperson, who has been knocking it out of the park in every way, shape, and form. And that's again why this administration so clear-cut, so conscientious of being transparent with the American people. As White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt mentioned on her first press briefing, this was a few weeks ago, that we will be the most transparent administration in history. They have Podcast Row. They take questions on a regular basis. You saw President Trump take questions in the Oval Office after the swearing in of Alina Habba. That's always great to see. He is very forthright with the press, and Karoline Leavitt put it simple. There is no better spokesperson for the White House other than President Donald Trump, and we see that on a daily basis. Someone always willing, ready, and able to work. You know, I really wonder what his work schedule is. I think it's countless hours on a daily basis. I mean, some easily over 100 hours a week and into the weekends. President Trump is nonstop. And Don Jr. and, of course, Kai Trump, his lovely granddaughter, who is a golf superstar, mind you, just talking about, they were out in the golf course recently and they just were reflecting on the 2024 campaign. And Don Jr. said President Trump did back-to-back all-nighters. So I think he was up 48 hours straight. Then the following morning, so going over 48 hours, did a morning show. And then he went to take a nap finally. I mean, this guy at 78 years young is non-stop. So get all of those America First updates at your favorite live desk, Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. We bring you not only that unbridled access, but great writers here at the network who bring you stories every day that are breaking and that you might not see and or hear on the other networks. So important to stick with us there. And if you are so moved, please feel free to donate by going to RSBN at 801-801. Text RSBN to 800-801-801. Thank you kindly for your generosity. It helps us citizen journalists to stay engaged with all of those stories inside and outside the Beltway for you, the American people. Visit rsbnetwork.com/donate. We are very grateful for your support here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And as you know, we are a live desk here, your go-to live desk with some excellent analysis, commentary, opinion, but also we give you all of that straight shot to speeches, to different hearings, to everything going on inside and outside the Beltway. So make sure you tune in every day for the latest on this beautiful administration. And we are just about at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There's Vice President J.D. Vance. He is making remarks in Greenland with our brave military at the Space Force Base. They've enjoyed some lunch together, a tour of the base. It looks like it's cold outside, about 41 degrees, maybe less, with those big parkas. In fact, I think it actually is less because you can see their breath as they're talking outside. And it's a memory that literally chills me to the core. I'm glad to be living in the Southeast United States because I grew up in the cold weather, and I also served some time in Anchorage, Alaska as a city beat reporter covering all of those ice-worthy stories. It's almost as if you are living in the real life Frozen. And so I know what that's like up there. So Greenland, very similar to Alaska with the temperatures and also the importance for military strength and prowess against any enemies, foreign and domestic. This will help patrol those North Atlantic waters to keep us safe, really to keep the world safe. And we know that NATO Secretary General was echoing President Trump's concerns of accessing and obtaining Greenland in real time. Very important for the future of this nation and for international security and stability. So they are working overtime in order to make sure all of that happens. We also await a press briefing from Tammy Bruce, the spokesperson for the Department of State. I'm sure she will highlight these very successful trips this week for Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Guyana, also for Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem as she visited Colombia and also El Salvador. So these amazing groups, these amazing cabinet members coming together for the safety and security of the American people. And we see that on a daily basis with this new administration, roughly 60 plus days in office, fighting for the well-being and the future of these 50 United States, 6 territories, and maybe a 7th added in the near future, maybe another state, perhaps the great state of Canada. They have a new governor, Mark Carney, who is apparently having good discussions with President Trump. It's good to hear that because this is someone who might have that far left woke mind virus, but President Trump stating on True Social, I could pull up right away for you that President Trump had a very good meeting with the new prime minister, stating that, pull that up real quick for you this moment, that they were able to have a nice bilateral discussion over the phone. He had just finished speaking roughly 2 hours ago with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. It was an extremely productive call. We agree on many things and will be meeting immediately after Canada's upcoming election to work on the elements of politics, businesses, and all other factors that will end up being great for both the United States of America and Canada. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So good to see that the new leader, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and President Trump having productive conversations on a plethora of topics. And again, President Trump has been zero focused in on this issue with Greenland and Canada, 2 separate issues, but both talking about them coming into the fold of the United States of America. And it's just a fact that we spend billions and billions of dollars protecting Canada, also protecting their development, and they also don't have nuclear weapons. They can rely on us. They're part of that NATO treaty. An attack on one is attack on all. So they have a pretty good deal in the setup, and we know that their dairy farmers, their tariffs very unfair to those in Minnesota and also Wisconsin. Some of those deals going all the way up north to 22% on our cheese and different dairy, the milk as well. And that doesn't end up serving us here well in America. So President Trump being very aggressive on these things as he continues to work for the clarity and energy and strength of this great nation. So we await Vice President Vance making remarks in Greenland today. A very cold day in Greenland, when I guess what day is not cold up there? Probably a great place to visit in the summer, as Alaska was, where you get more of the moderate temperatures. You probably still need a jacket or a coat, but rarely does it get up, over that 70-degree mark. But lots of sunshine, lots of day during the course of the summertime in Alaska and Greenland. Got to see that myself. And of course, the northern lights during the wintertime. So visible, so beautiful. When I was on a trip actually from Anchorage directly to Chicago O'Hare one time, I was going over Alberta. And I just could not happen to sleep on a flight. I'm a pretty good sleeper on planes, trains, and automobiles for all that know me. But on this night, I just could not sleep. And I'm glad that did not happen. On a red eye back to Chicago, I looked out my window and the northern lights were just dancing throughout the sky. And then it makes you really feel small in a good way. The beautiful creation that God has really bestowed upon us here on our planet. And we need people like President Trump, like Vice President Vance, and this extraordinary cabinet you saw earlier today in the broadcast, Secretary of Health and Human Services leader, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in West Virginia, talking about how important it is to not only get outside, but to get rid of these dyes, these poisons in our food, to walk at least a mile a day, to get on that carnivore diet, to be all natural, organic, and to really fight back the expensive nature of those healthy foods being available here in the United States. So it's inevitable when you throw on these tariffs that work, the proof is in the pudding, it will bring more wealth to this country. In turn, you scale down inflation. In turn, you also make sure that the cost of groceries, of gasoline, of energy come down, so that middle-class Americans especially can feel that relief. We've seen how Bidenflation and the terrible policies of the last auto pen 4 years really harmed the American people. Of course, we see their Second Lady, Usha Vance, coming into the room. So that might mean that J.D. Vance, our 50th Vice President, is right around the corner to continue addressing troops on his visit to the Space Force compound all the way up in Greenland. They left early this morning, about 6 in the morning. Parkas ready to go. Nice and cold from Joint Base Andrews, but much colder up in Greenland. And of course, the lapel being adorned by Vice President Vance earlier when he was having meetings and lunch with our military. And these are some of the best and the brightest. These men and women in uniform, specifically on this mission, have spent a year or more away from their family members. And that takes a toll on the psyche. That takes a toll if you have the one who mentioned to the vice president, I'm from Texas. It's cold up here, but it's worth being here in order to defend the American people and all of our interests worldwide. And we will be getting more of an update on just that, the amazing America First policies. But we will go straight to the Vice President right now live in
Please, at ease, have a seat. We're going to be talking for a long time. I heard you guys love speeches, so I've got about 90 minutes of prepared remarks here. I want to thank you all for being here.
USA!
There we
USA!
go.
USA! 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 USA!
So, I want to thank our guardians, our airmen, and everyone else for the warm reception in a very, very cold place. I think it's probably the coldest place I've ever been, but you guys managed to do a great job despite the weather. I want to bring a message for President Trump. He's grateful for your service, grateful for what you do up here, and just wanted me to tell you that he's proud of you and he thinks about you. And of course, the same is true for everybody that's flanking me up here. We're thrilled to be here because the mission that you guys do is so important for the United States. It's important for our national security. And today, everybody that I met to a person was professional, was kind, was knowledgeable, and was dedicated to our country. You're a great credit to the United States of America, even though you are very, very far from home. I met some Texans and some Floridians today, and I thought to myself, man, you guys have really signed up for tough duty here in Greenland, but it's a beautiful place. It's a striking place, a very harsh place. The Colonel showed me around, but a very beautiful place. Even in right now, I guess we're still, at least here in Greenland, in the heart of what is winter, because winter, I guess, lasts about 9 months here in Greenland. So I want to thank our reporters for following us around today and covering what we're doing. We'll take some questions from the reporters, but before we did that, I wanted to give some of my special guests an opportunity to say a few words. So we, of course, are thrilled to be joined by Juliet, our National Security Advisor's wife, and by my wife, our Second Lady, Usha. And flanking me here on my left is Chris Wright, our Secretary of Energy, Mike Waltz, our National Security Advisor, and my dear friend Senator Mike Lee from the great state of Utah, who I joked earlier, I told Mike I'd give him a ride to Utah, and we ended up in Greenland. But I want to, because each of them care about this territory and care about the mission of the American military here in Greenland, for various reasons, touching each of the areas that they focus on, I thought it would be worth hearing from each of them for a little while. So, Chris, if you would say a few words about the importance of energy. Thanks, Chris. Here we are.
I will. Let me echo the Vice President's comments to thank you for your service to our country, wherever it is, whatever it takes. And I think we see right here in this beautiful air base in the high Arctic what energy can do. We can make a tough high Arctic environment a beautiful place to live, a comfortable place to live, all sorts of scientific instrumentation, military mission to monitor what's going on in the world. None of this was possible not long ago. President Trump was elected to re-energize America, to take the beauty that you've seen up here and make that a thing of pride and ambition again. Not shaming of energy, not trying to stop its growth and its prosperity, but to re-energize it. So energy makes the world a beautiful place to live. It makes us comfortable and have long, opportunity-rich lives. I'm thrilled and proud to be part of this administration with President Trump and Vice President Vance. Thank you all for your service. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Mike?
I guess when we flew in, it did look a little bit like Utah in the wintertime. Only there are substantial portions of this land that are always covered in ice, and it doesn't change. I really enjoyed talking to a number of you a little while ago as you were telling me that when you're deployed here for a year without your family, without your spouse, without your children. That is emblematic of so many of the sacrifices that so many of our armed services personnel make. And my conversations with our airmen and guardians this afternoon reminded me of the fact that the American people are indeed in good hands. They're in your hands. What you do here makes us safer. And when we're going about our business, our day-to-day lives at home, we don't have to worry about the things that you worry about because you're doing it for us. Thank you so much for that. And I look forward to learning more about what you do here and about the future of the United States and its interaction with this amazing land in this part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and I just wanted to take a minute and thank you all to the airmen and women, to the guardians who are keeping us safe day in and day out. You are continuing a tradition of the U.S. military's presence in Greenland since World War II, a 1951 defense treaty, and President Trump is absolutely serious with the Vice President and with his team about the Arctic and the security that the Arctic brings and that you bring to the Western Hemisphere. This is about shipping lanes. This is about energy. This is about fisheries. And, of course, it's about your mission, which is keeping us safe and monitoring space, monitoring our adversaries, and making sure the American people can sleep safely in their homes day in and day out. So Thank you for roughing it. Thank you for being without your families. I bet every one of you are going to pick somewhere in, I don't know, Florida or the Bahamas or something for your next duty station, I would think. But this is also, I mean, what an incredible adventure. I have yet to meet a veteran. My wife is a veteran. I am as well. And, of course, the vice president. I have yet to meet a veteran that says, wow, I regret my time in service. Instead, they cherish it the rest of their lives. So, appreciate this moment and this adventure that it is. And the American people, thank you. The President Trump thanks you. And I know the Vice President and the Second Lady thanks you as well. And it's just really an honor to be with you today. Thanks so much, VP.
So thank you, Mike. And let me say just a couple of other things, and then we'll take some questions from the reporters. So, number one, I think a lot of Americans wonder, why does Greenland matter so much? Why does the mission of this base matter so much to the American people? And I learned a lot about that today myself. Of course, you can read about it in a book, but I saw it up close and personal. And if, God forbid, to my fellow Americans, if a missile was fired from an enemy country or an enemy submarine into the United States, it is the people here before us who would give notice to our brave men and women further south in the United States to let people know what was coming and, God willing, to try to shoot it down and prepare for it. That's one of the things that we do at installations like this. We know that Russia and China and other nations are taking an extraordinary interest in Arctic passageways and Arctic naval routes, and indeed in the minerals of the Arctic territories. We need to ensure that America is leading in the Arctic, because we know that if America doesn't, other nations will fill the gap where we fall behind. So what you guys do is so critically important. I think a lot of Americans, certainly I, didn't realize it fully until President Trump started talking about the importance of our Arctic mission, about building upon it and ensuring that America can lead in the Arctic for the next generation. And now I want to talk about, of course, the interaction and what Denmark, I think, has done, and sometimes in partnership with us, but let's be honest, what Denmark over the last 20 years has failed to do in some cases, because we know that unfortunately this place, this base, the surrounding area is less secure than it was 30, 40 years ago, because some of our allies haven't kept up. As China and Russia have taken greater and greater interest in Greenland, in this base, in the activities of the brave Americans right here, we know that too often our allies in Europe have not kept pace. They haven't kept pace with military spending, and Denmark has not kept pace in devoting the resources necessary to keep this base, to keep our troops, and in my view, to keep the people of Greenland safe from a lot of very aggressive incursions from Russia, from China, and from other nations. Now, President Trump, as he says all the time, and as a lot of people recognize, is a president of peace. We want to have good relationships with everybody. That includes, even to the extent possible, the Chinese and the Russians. But part of having good relations is showing your strength when you have to. And unfortunately, the story of Greenland over the past 20 years when it comes to security is that we've underinvested in the infrastructure, we've underinvested in the security architecture, and we've underinvested in the brave men and women who are doing a very hard job, as Mike said, to keep all of us safe. That has to change. Now, when I pointed out a couple of weeks ago that in some ways, with all due respect to our Danish allies, they had not kept pace, there was a lot of criticism from Denmark, a lot of attacks at the Trump administration, at the president, at me, at others in our administration for saying the obvious, which is that Denmark hasn't done a good job at keeping Greenland safe. And one of the things I heard was, well, what about the many Danes who lost their lives in the war on terror fighting alongside the United States? Well, look, we obviously honor the sacrifice of our Danish friends in the war on terror 20 years ago, just as, for example, the French honor the sacrifice of Americans in Normandy 80 years ago. But recognizing that there are important security partnerships in the past does not mean that we can't have disagreements with allies in the present about how to preserve our shared security for the future. And that's what this is about. There is no amount of bullying, no amount of obfuscating, no amount of confusing the issue. Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. That has to change. And because it hasn't changed, this is why President Trump's policy in Greenland is what it is. It's consistent with the first Trump administration, where you saw significant investments in Arctic security, and it will continue over the next 4 years under President Trump's leadership. And let me finally, before I kick it over to the media, make one comment about the people of Greenland. The colonel here, the base commander, who came here first as a second lieutenant, and I guess, Colonel, this is your second duty station here, and we're proud of you and proud of all of you guys who are serving and helping keep us safe. You know, I heard a lot about the respect that our American troops show for the local Greenlandic population, the way that we make and create shelter for hunters and dog sledders, the way that we found ways to turn over traditional tribal land to some of the local populations in order to ensure that they're able to live in accordance with their values. We respect, as the President said in his State of the Union address, we respect the self-determination of Greenlanders. We believe in the self-determination of the population of the people of Greenland. And our argument is very simple. It is not with the people of Greenland, who I think are incredible and have an incredible opportunity here. Our argument really is with the leadership of Denmark, which is underinvested in Greenland and underinvested in its security architecture. That simply must change. It is the policy of the United States that will change, and I'm proud to be able to stand here with so many brave Americans to better understand the security mission and better understand what you guys do each and every day. For that, I'm grateful for your service. I'm even more grateful. I love you guys. I'm proud of you guys, and President Trump stands behind you and will for the remainder of his administration. Thank you all. God bless you. All right, now we'll take a few questions. Both of you guys have your hands up. Whoever can go first. Red scarf, go first.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Do you have any plans, are there plans to expand the U.S.'s military presence in Greenland beyond this base?
Well, are there immediate plans to expand our military presence? No, but are there general objectives that we want to accomplish that will certainly require us investing more resources, investing in additional military, icebreakers, investing in additional naval ships that will have a greater presence in Greenland? Absolutely. And we know that's necessary because we know, as Mike talked about and certainly I talked about, there has been an expansion of the security footprint and the security interest of Russia and China. They're doing what they believe is in their interest. The United States must do what I know is in our interest, which is to make sure that Greenland is safe. If Greenland doesn't have self-determination, if the people of Greenland have their future controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, it's not going to make their lives better off, and most importantly, it's going to make American and world national security, world security, much, much weaker. We in some ways need to wake up. We need to wake up from a failed 40-year consensus that said that we could ignore the encroachment of powerful countries as they expand their ambitions. We can't just bury our head in the sand, or in Greenland, bury our head in the snow and pretend that the Chinese are not interested in this very large landmass. We know that they are. They've taken steps to put Greenland in ridiculous debt traps to invest and exploit the resources here. And we know that they're sending a lot of military resources here. Yes, over the medium term, the United States will meet that challenge. We will put our own resources here. We already have a lot of great resources here, but we know we're going to have to do more to counter some of the nations that we know that we're competitive with. Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. And the President said today that we have to have Greenland. By being here today, are you also conveying that message that the U.S. is very serious in its desire to acquire Greenland?
Well, the President said we have to have Greenland, and I think that we do have to be more serious about the security of Greenland. We can't just ignore this place. We can't just ignore the president's desires, but most importantly, we can't ignore what I said earlier, which is the Russian and Chinese encroachment in Greenland. We have to do more. Now, what the president said in his State of the Union address, and he was very clear about this, is we respect the self-determination of the people of Greenland, but my argument again to them is I think that you'd be a lot better coming under the United States security umbrella than you have been under Denmark's security umbrella. Because what Denmark's security umbrella has meant is effectively they've passed it all off to brave Americans and hoped that we would pick up the tab. We're simply saying to the people of Greenland, when the president says we've got to have Greenland, he's saying this island is not safe. A lot of people are interested in it. A lot of people are making a play. We know that America cares about the security of this island for the sake of the people of Greenland, but also for the sake of the national security interests of the United States of America. So our message is very simple. Yes, the people of Greenland are going to have self-determination. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on earth that will respect their sovereignty and respect their security, because their security is very much our security, as these brave Americans show.
John Parkinson with ABC News. Thanks for bringing us along on this historic trip. I wanted to ask you about last week's news with the Atlantic. We've had a couple questions on Greenland. I feel like you've answered that. But I did want to ask, did you express your concerns to the president that you were opposed to the Houthi strike? And also, what did you mean when you asked, or when you said in that thread that the president wasn't aware that his directions for Yemen were inconsistent with his message on Europe?
Well, I didn't quite say that. I think that's a slight misunderstanding of what I said. But we've talked, of course, in the American media about Signalgate, as I called it, for the past week. And here's what I told the president and the entire national security team is that, yes, it is in the interest of the United States of America to preserve navigation. Yes, it is in the interest of the United States to kill terrorists who are preventing navigation in the Red Sea, but we got to make sure that we do it right. We have to be careful. We have to make sure the timing is right. And of course, what that leak revealed, I think, is a private communication between the president's senior advisors about how best to prepare the American people for what we all thought we had to do, about the right timing of when we should do something, and of course, surfacing the strategic questions that we needed to decide and brief the president on so that he could ultimately make the decision about what we would do. What I saw in that Signal chat, and of course what I've seen in the president's senior national security team, is that sometimes we all agree and sometimes we all disagree, but it's important that we all have an honest conversation amongst ourselves and with the president of the United States about what we think is the best interest of the national security of the United States of America. I support the president's decision to strike the Houthis. I always supported the president's decision to strike the Houthis, and I support the national security team having the argument about how best to serve the American people. Good.
In your security briefing today, did you see specific threats coming from China and Russia, things that you did not know about before? Are we talking battleships, icebreakers, any type of military equipment, or is it economic?
Well, I don't want to get too specific, but yes, we know that the Chinese are very, very interested in this island. We've seen some of the economic pressures that they've tried to place on Greenland. We know that they're increasingly engaging in military training and military interest. Part of that is justifying taking a further interest in Greenland and some of the surrounding territories. So we've seen very strong evidence that both the Chinese and the Russians are interested in Greenland. And why wouldn't they be interested in Greenland? It's a beautiful place. It has incredible people. It has its geographic placement makes it very important for the national security of the United States. But for world security, what we have to recognize is that if the Chinese and the Russians are going to pursue their national interest, we need a president who's going to pursue the American national interest. And that means ensuring that Greenland is safe.
When can we expect an update on the internal investigation into that Signal chat leak? Has that investigation concluded, and what are the findings? I think we'll get an update soon. Look, we take it very seriously. We all accept that a journalist should not have been invited into the chat,
and members of the administration, including my dear friend Mike, have taken responsibility for it. But I find the American media's obsession with this issue very, very interesting, because I happen to remember about 4 years ago when American military leadership made a catastrophic error that got 13 innocent Americans killed in Afghanistan and had about $80 billion of military equipment turned over to one of the worst terrorist organizations in the world. And for years, the American media ran cover for a Biden administration that refused to fire any generals or even launch an internal investigation that was meaningful and substantive about what happened. And now the same American media that covered for the Biden administration after the untimely death and the unnecessary death of 13 brave Americans is really, really interested in forcing the President of the United States to fire someone because of a signal chat. That is not honest behavior from the American media. And if you think you're going to force the President of the United States to fire anybody, you've got another thing coming. President Trump has said it on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, and I'm the Vice President saying it here on Friday. We are standing behind our entire national security team. Yeah, go ahead.
The tariffs. There's been some retaliation, some signals at least in the media that Canada's going to respond. Some of these others are going to respond to the president's tariffs. What's your message for Americans that are going to see costs increase on auto manufacturing, new cars, that kind of thing? Is it Buy America, or what's the message going forward there?
Well, let me say a couple of things. First of all, for the Canadians, and we have many dear friends in Canada, and of course we love the Canadian people, but the Canadian leadership threatening retaliatory tariffs against the United States, as President Trump often says, they just don't have the cards. There is no way that Canada can win a trade war with the United States. What President Trump has said is that he wants to level the playing field. For decades, Canadian leadership has forced American farmers and American manufacturers to play by an unfair set of rules. All President Trump has said is that we're done playing by an unfair set of rules. If you're going to do something to our industries, then we're going to do something back to your industries. That's how you protect American manufacturing, and that's how you protect American jobs. Now, what I'd say to the American people is look, the president ran on this, and he said very clearly that we're done being the piggy bank of the entire world. For 40 years, in the same way that our European friends, I think, have neglected international security, for 40 years, a lot of our friends all over the world have used America as a piggy bank. They have used us to absorb all of their excess economic production. And what does that mean for Americans? For Americans, that's meant manufacturing jobs declining. That's meant middle-class wages going down. That's meant whole towns that have been hollowed out by empty factories. And that means an America that is less safe because our manufacturing isn't as powerful now as it was 30 years ago. I've got all these brave Americans in front of me and a few behind me, too. We want to send, if God forbid we have to send Americans to war, we want them to have weapons, the best weapons in the world that are manufactured in America and not in China. The way you do that is to rebuild the American manufacturing sector. The days of America being the piggy bank of the world, the days of closed factories, the days of people not being able to get a middle-class job in this country, they're over. And yes, that means we're going to have to fight back even against some of our friends and their unfair economic practices. But the long-term consequence of this is going to be higher wages, more manufacturing, and more economic security for the American people. We'll take a couple more questions.
Russia, has the U.S. agreed to those conditions that the Kremlin said were needed for that truce in the Black Sea? It included lifting sanctions imposed on Russian banks. Trump said this week that you were still looking at it.
Well, there are a couple of different statements that are floating around out there, and some of them I think are mistranslations, and some of them are not totally clear what is even being asked for. But the president has said, and he's right, that I think we feel very good about where things are. We trust but verify. We make sure that what we're seeing from one party is met by the other party and vice versa. But I think that we've made an incredible amount of progress. We have to remember that this war started under Joe Biden's administration. It has led to an unbelievable amount of death and destruction. And for the first time in almost 4 years, thanks to President Trump's leadership, we have an opportunity to really achieve a peaceful settlement. The president's going to fight every single day to make sure that happens. And of course, we'll keep you guys updated as we continue to make progress. I do think if you look at what we've talked about, we've obviously got this energy infrastructure ceasefire. We've got a Black Sea commercial ceasefire that I think is almost done. And once we get there, we'll work on the next stage of the ceasefire. Yeah.
The president has previously not ruled out military force when he's talking about taking over Greenland. But your rhetoric today is more about encouraging the Greenlandic people to vote for independence. Do you think the rhetoric has changed about that, or what's your message there?
No, I don't think it's changed at all. Look, the president has said clearly he doesn't think that military force is going to be necessary, but he absolutely believes that Greenland is an important part of the security, not just of the United States, but of the world, and of course the people of Greenland too. It's very simple. I think the president's been very consistent here from his State of the Union, from his inaugural address, and every public statement that he's made. This territory, Greenland, really matters for the security of the United States. It's extremely vulnerable right now. And if the people of Greenland were willing to partner with the United States, and I think that they ultimately will partner with the United States, we could make them much more secure. We could do a lot more protection, and I think they'd fare a lot better economically as well. This has to happen. And the reason it has to happen, I hate to say it, is because our friends in Denmark have not done their job in keeping this area safe. They just haven't done it. It's very simple. For all of our friends in the American media who attack the administration for pointing out the obvious, what is the alternative? To give up the North Atlantic? To give up the Arctic? To China, to Russia, and to other regimes that don't have the best interest of the American people at heart? We have no other option. We need to take a significant position in Greenland to keep the people here safe, but to keep our own country safe too. We'll do one or two more. Yeah.
Trump said this week the U.S. would go as far as we have to go to acquire Greenland. In that same vein, on that question, are there plans that have been drafted to use military force to take over Greenland?
Well, what the president has said is that we need to have more of a position in Greenland. We need it, again, for the safety of the American people. And what we think is going to happen is that the Greenlanders are going to choose through self-determination to become independent of Denmark, and then we're going to have conversations with the people of Greenland from there. So I think that talking about anything too far in the future is way too premature. We do not think that military force is ever going to be necessary. We think this makes sense. And because we think the people of Greenland are rational and good, we think we're going to be able to cut a deal, Donald Trump style, to ensure the security of this territory, but also the United States of America. I'll do one more question.
You spoke about economic interests, how the U.S. could develop Greenland more economically. Could you speak a little bit more about that? I know Secretary Wright is here. Have you guys spoken about energy? Senator Lee is here as well. Just wondering what those discussions have been like.
My point actually is that other countries have explicitly gone after Greenland, and I think with a mind towards economic exploitation. Sometimes asking Greenland to get itself into terrible economic debt traps that would make the people of Greenland not self-determined and sovereign, but to mortgage their future to hostile foreign countries that don't have their best interests at heart. That is not what the United States of America wants to do. What we want to do is to protect the security of this territory because it matters for us and it matters for the people who live here. All right, guys, thank you all. And let me just say one more final word to the Guardians, the Airmen, the other service members gathered here. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, it is incredible to be a vice president who has served just as our NSA, Mike Waltz, has served, to know the sacrifice that comes along with it, and to see that there are still incredible young Americans willing to put on the uniform and serve this country. You make America a better place, and you make it an honor to serve as your vice president. God bless you guys. Thanks for having me.
An absolutely great speech there by the Vice President, J.D. Vance, in Greenland. As we have a shift change here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, Robert McNeely, of course, our host, holding down the fort throughout the day with awesome coverage as we continue into the afternoon, and even later today in a separate broadcast for the great Byron Donalds, as he has a rally in Florida announcing his official run for governor of the state of Florida. So we'll have that a bit later, as we're looking at the State Department live right now. In the meantime, President Trump, of course, you may have seen on Air Force One now, and President Trump's Truth Social account and his X account posting a video about Greenland. Take a look.
In the cold silence of the tundra, a bond was born, not from treaties or trade, but from blood and bravery. While Germany controlled Europe, the Nazis set their sights on the Arctic. Greenland became an unwitting combatant, and the United States stepped in, not to conquer, but to protect. In 1943, nearly 1,000 American soldiers with 4 chaplains set sail from New York to Greenland, carrying with them hope, duty, and a quiet fear. But their ship was torpedoed by a Nazi U-boat, and the frigid waters of the North Atlantic became a grave. Those 4 chaplains gave up their life vests, giving their lives so that others might live, to protect America and Greenland. Their sacrifices helped win our freedom, and we will never forget. Together, Americans and Greenlanders stood as sentinels at the top of the world. But today, Greenland faces new threats, from Russian aggression and Chinese expansion. Our shared legacy lives on in every joint mission, every Arctic patrol, every partnership forged in the shadow of melting ice and rising tensions. This is not just history, it is destiny. Now is the time to stand together again. For peace, for security, for the future, America stands with Greenland.
Powerful, powerful stuff there. President Trump just posting that, or his team at least, on Truth Social and on X. So that being seen by a lot of people right now, literally posting that within the past 10 minutes, as we saw the Vice President, J.D. Vance, there speaking in Greenland. So we do see on the right side of your screen, that is a live picture at the State Department for a State Department press briefing here on this Friday, March 28th. At 2:40 Eastern Time. 2:40 Eastern Time, you'll see that change. There you go, 2:40, as we continue our live coverage. After this State Department coverage, most likely we'll be ending the broadcast for the first broadcast of the day, or actually now the second, I believe. Then we'll be starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be looking at a great event happening in Florida. Byron Donalds, the congressman of Florida, announcing officially today his run for governor. He actually announced that on social media, but he's holding a rally, a hometown rally, in Bonita Springs, Florida. That's coming up a bit later. We'll have live coverage from Florida. Quite awesome. I'm trying to connect the dots just as a journalist. No one has told me this, but President Trump is on his way to Florida a little bit earlier in the day. That's quite interesting. He's headed to, according to the schedule, Palm Beach, Florida, which is 3 hours, 15 minutes from the west side of the state, Bonita Springs. Who knows if we may see an appearance? I have no idea, no intel on that, just kind of looking at the interest there, because we know President Trump endorsed Byron Donalds for governor. So if there's an appearance, great. If there's not, still great, because Byron Donalds, of course, would do a great job as the governor of that great state, Florida, the free state of Florida, and beautiful beaches as well. Moments ago, we see there President Trump exiting the White House on his way to the South Lawn there to get aboard Marine One on his way to Joint Base Andrews. So what we can do in the meantime while we're watching that and we're waiting for the State Department is if there is any press opportunity there, sometimes the president walks over to the media, and if he does that in this case, of course, we'll go to that, which was literally moments ago. A great job by our production staff here at Right Side to be able to handle and juggle all these videos going on in real time and then replay it for you right here on RSBN Live at 2:42 Friday, March 28th. It looks as if the president will go directly to Marine One right now. Let's just take a live listen in. It's always cool to hear that helicopter, so let's go there real quick. We'll do is we'll stick to the State Department if needed. And I wanted to get to an email from a viewer that read some things or sent some things to us moments ago. That she said, "Hello, Matthew and Robert. My name is Betty Meal, and I'm a resident of Litchfield, New Hampshire. And I just want to let you know that I really enjoy watching you both every day with total and complete coverage of President Trump and all of the news and events that are happening every single day, and that you tell the truth and no lies or fake news like liberal mainstream media does. I have been a huge fan of RSBN for the past 10 years, and I enjoy every minute of your coverage, and you both do an excellent job. Your entire staff is awesome, and keep up the great work. I would be honored," again, this is Beth Meal from Betty Meal, actually from Litchfield, New Hampshire. She says, "I would be honored and thrilled if you would mention this email on your next news show. I hope that our favorite president, President Trump, will be listening that day, and I would love it if he knew what a huge supporter I am of his and the whole entire MAGA movement. Thank you both so much, and I look forward to hearing from you, and please feel free to email me back." So we'll be sending an email back to her in a bit. Keep up the great work, and God bless you, and God bless President Trump and his entire MAGA movement, and God bless America. Thank you, Matthew and Robert. Betty Meal, that from an email that was forwarded to us from some of the great people that run the network here at Right Side. So awesome to see that email. It's great to see those kind of emails come in, of course. So Betty, thank you so much for watching. From Robert and I both, and from all of us here at Right Side, thank you for being a viewer at the network. And if you'd like to send an email as well, just go to feedback@rsbn.tv, and maybe we'll start reading some emails. That was kind of on the fly, but she did say it would be great if we could read it during one of the news shows. So there you go. Again, we'll have to email her back and let her know about that, and at least maybe send her the clip of what just happened there. 2:44 Eastern, we did see the president moments ago on his way to Marine One, so it looks like he wasn't going to talk to reporters at that moment. So on his way, of course, already at Air Force One, at Joint Base Andrews, headed to Florida. Speaking of Florida, at about 5 o'clock, we'll have a live event here on Right Side for Byron Donalds, as he will be holding a hometown campaign kickoff rally as he is running for governor of the state of Florida. So we'll have that in its entirety. And of course, we know Byron Donalds as a congressman in Florida, a person that is through and through a MAGA patriot, somebody that stands up for the common sense America First agenda that President Trump stands for and what we the people voted for. So that should be a great situation for hopeful Governor Donalds of Florida in the future. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm sure we'll be monitoring that race as well. So until then, that's the State Department. Again, this will be the press briefing, and it looks like they're getting started at any minute right now. They might be giving them a 2-minute warning to everything, as Tammy Bruce is the press spokesperson for the State Department. So let's go there now. I'm not sure what's going on, but they are zooming in, so I can't see it from this distance. But let's go to the State Department.
2 hands are up. Yeah, so I got in. It was like 4 in the morning. Welcome aboard, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Certainly, we are all interested in the Vice President, his remarks. Today's going to be slightly different. It already is a little bit. That I was on the Secretary's travel, of course. Many of you were as well. Raise your hands if you were on that lovely travel experience through the forests of the world. 1. Yeah, all right. Got home about 4 in the morning. And so don't take advantage of me. I've had a few hours sleep. But yes, so it's been an unusual day, and I wanted to do this because, gosh, nothing's happened. So I thought we'd just have simple chats today. But it's different in that there are several large issues, which I believe all of you would be interested in, mostly, that are significant. And so we're going to move in that regard. And I've got a bit of an announcement for you as well. But several things, of course, are on our plate. So it is an experiment. Thank you for working with me, and I appreciate you being here, obviously, to say the least. All right, so we did just return from a highly successful trip in the Caribbean. This was Secretary Rubio's second trip in our hemisphere. From day one of this administration, American leadership has been back in our region. We are standing with our partners to ensure mutual prosperity, security, and progress. In addition, the United States sends our deepest condolences to all affected in Burma and Thailand by the earthquake that struck this morning. USAID has maintained a team of disaster experts with the capacity to respond if disaster strikes. These expert teams provide immediate assistance, including food and safe drinking water, needed to save lives in the aftermath of a disaster. The United States is evaluating the need for assistance based on requests and dynamic reporting. We are also united in support for the people of the Republic of Korea as they face devastating wildfires that have caused loss of life and destruction. We have not forgotten the Republic of Korea's unwavering support during the wildfires in Los Angeles and Hawaii. Just as they stood with us, we stand with them. As the Office of the Secretary also announced today, the Department of State and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, have notified Congress on their intent to undertake a reorganization that would involve realigning certain USAID functions to the department by July 1st, 2025, and discontinuing the remaining USAID functions that do not align with administration priorities, I should say. In the words of Secretary Rubio in his statement, foreign assistance done right can advance our national interests, protect our borders, and strengthen our partnerships with key allies. Unfortunately, USAID strayed from its original mission long ago. As a result, the gains were too few and the costs were too high. Thanks to President Trump, this misguided and fiscally irresponsible era is now over. We are reorienting, I should say, our foreign assistance programs to align directly with what is best for the United States and our citizens. We are continuing essential life-saving programs and making strategic investments that strengthen our partners and our own country. This is yet another promise made and delivered to the American people. Finally, the United States announced important steps to disrupt the complex schemes Hezbollah uses to conceal its illicit behavior and acquire revenue to fund its malign activities. Today, we sanctioned 5 individuals and 3 entities for ties to U.S. designated Hezbollah. The United States is taking decisive action against anyone involved in facilitating Iran's oil sales at any stage of the supply chain. Today's designation supports the President's policy of maximum pressure on Iran and its terrorist proxies. And now, I'm open for questions. Now there are all the hands. Dare I say, Matt Lee, who doesn't even, he's kind of got a pen, he's kind of raising. But yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you. And I got you. I don't know how you got back at 4 o'clock. I got back at 3:30.
Well, there you
I got home.
We
at
will not
3:30,
discuss
but
transportation and domiciles.
I
But
guess
go
the
ahead,
traffic.
sir.
I guess the traffic was worse for you than it was for me. Anyway, I have 2. They'll be both very brief. One, I think you can answer quite quickly because the Secretary addressed it on the plane last night on the way from Suriname to Florida, and that is about the Yale project on the Ukrainian children taken to Russia. What exactly has been restored, even if just temporarily? Can you give us a
Sure.
dollar amount? And then I've just got one more also.
Yes, and I'll repeat what the President said. There should be a transcript up with these gaggles that happened in the back of the plane with our bullpen. And he was asked about, there was a very misleading tweet, I think, from a reporter saying that funding had been reversed and restored. The Secretary noted, no, it hasn't been. But I can tell you exactly what has occurred, and something, in fact, has. So, first of all, a couple of things here. And we've already talked about, of course, the data. That was a main concern. We know that the data was protected and available. But for those who are thinking that there was a reversal of the decision to terminate support for the Conflict Observatory, funding is being provided for a short period while the Conflict Observatory implementers ensure the proper transfer of the critical data on the Ukrainian children to the appropriate authorities. It is part of the standard closeout procedures for terminated programs. So this is not a reversal of funding. It's not a restoration. It is part of the closeout dynamic that we've realized in the process of closing it out about what needs to happen to finish that process. Also, as we learned about more specific requirements of the closeout, We provided then updated guidance to the implementer, so this is what has occurred. As part of the foreign assistance review directed by the Secretary consistent with the Executive Order 14169, the award supporting the Ukraine Conflict Observatory was paused effective January 25th. Following a review, the U.S. Department of State terminated the award on February 26th. So when we think about the nature of, very good example of what was fake news based essentially on something partially accurate, but this is the fact of the matter. There is no reversal of funding. It has not been renewed. This is a closeout procedure that required funding to move to make sure the data that was retained, that exists, is moved to the proper authorities.
So how much is it, do you know? For how long?
No, I can't speak to the amount of money. It's going to be an amount of money that facilitates the goal of that closeout.
Okay,
Matt,
well, hold on. Wait.
I beg your pardon. Matt, I beg your pardon. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'm just trying to get some more fidelity on the number of foreign students' visas that have been revoked. There's been some back and forth, and it's a little nebulous.
Sure.
If you have not the exact figure, I'm sure, because it's a fluid situation, but
it's one of my new favorite words, because that is somewhat correct. We know that, of course, there's some things I've said, I think, regularly on the issue of visas, is that we don't speak about specifics, right? We tend to also not provide statistics, and I think that's also important. So I'm not going to talk to you about numbers, because also it does continue to change. As we talk about numbers and everything else, we're looking at a framework where it gets us closer to the specifics for individuals, which we don't want to do. Of course, it's a big story. It's something also that's important when it comes to the larger story of the revocation of visas and why that's happening. But the Secretary also addressed this a couple of times on the trip. He was asked about certain numbers of visas that were revoked. He said he didn't know, but that we'll revoke the visas of whoever it is that fits within the category of what it is we're deciding is going to get your visa revoked, which is illegal activity, essentially. I do know that from our own conversations here, that, here we go, the department, I can say this specifically, revokes visas every day in order to secure America's borders and keep our communities safe, and will continue to do so. Because the process is ongoing, the number of revocations, as I've noted, is dynamic, and the department generally does not provide statistics on visa revocations, and generally we were not going to add anything at this time. But clearly, this is a process that we're committed to and is part of making America safe again. It's within our right, it's within the right of every sovereign nation to make a determination who will stay in this country, who'll be allowed in this country, and the Secretary, of course, has been very clear on this. What we can also say is that we have zero tolerance for non-citizens who violate U.S. laws. Those who break the law, including students, may face visa refusal, visa revocation, and/or deportation. Also, all visa applicants, no matter the visa type and where they are located, are continuously vetted. So we are looking always at your status in this process. We also are looking at the security vetting. It runs from the time of each application through adjudication of the visa and afterwards during the validity period of every visa issued to ensure that the individual remains eligible to travel to and be in the United States. The Department of State will work closely, continues to work closely with the Department of Homeland Security, which enters into this process to administer and enforce U.S. visas and immigration laws. A lot of this may have been unknown to people who have visas because we haven't had to discuss it before, but I think that should answer your question. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I want to follow up on the same topic. I want to go back to the detention of Turkish students.
All right, so what we're going to do is I do want to stay within a certain block so that we don't go back and forth, because there's, again, a number of larger issues, and that includes this issue, the U.S. aid issue, the visa issues, the announcements made today. We have sanctions on Hezbollah, which are important to discuss. So, Andrea Mitchell. Yes, ma'am. Now, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about U.S. aid.
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
disaster relief and about the children.
Yes, ma'am.
If I can. Okay. For the disaster relief, can you tell us how, when the disaster relief teams might be mobilized and ready, how soon that might take place? Have requests already come in, to your knowledge? And has the reorganization of U.S. aid affected our ability in these instances to assemble a team and mobilize them quickly?
Well, from conversations through the last, since early this morning, what I can tell you is that we wait for formal requests, so that has not, at least maybe in the last 5 minutes, but coming up here to the podium, we are waiting any formal requests. We are ready. Obviously, we are watching what is transpiring. It is, for all of us who watched September 11th unfold, there's video, I'm sure you've seen it, of a major skyscraper just, it gives all of us the chills. So we are, we've obviously telegraphing that from this podium, and we are ready. I can tell you that, again, through, as I've said before, regarding the nature of the reform and the reviews that have gone on, that we are ready to move now. So there has been no impact on our ability to perform those duties, those requests for aid, if and when they come in.
And to just follow up,
yes, ma'am,
on the children and the broader question about war crimes and investigations, which had been undertaken with coordination with the State Department, understanding that the data have been preserved.
Correct.
But does that mean, can we infer from that investigations will not be conducted by this government of war crimes going forward, in either the crime of kidnapping or the war crimes that were undertaken, Busha, Mariupol, all these other places?
I've cautioned always for us to not place a whole host of issues attached to something starting or stopping. And that, our work and our commitment to the world is on display every day through certainly Secretary Rubio's commitment, the nature of who he meets with, what he's done when it comes to summits, negotiations, bargaining, the issue of working for ceasefires. It has been a hallmark and remains a hallmark and will be, I have to say, a hallmark of this administration and of Secretary Rubio's tenure here. So it would be wrong to say that, in fact, that signals some kind of end to our work on these issues. In fact, manifesting through the conversation with President Trump and President Putin, it was a central part of that conversation that was discussed between those two men. And I think that shows you where it's placed now and where it will continue to be placed. Well, here's what I do know, which may speak to that a bit, is that the data is not being transferred to a storage facility. It's being transferred to the appropriate authorities. And I think that can tell us that the nature of the trajectory of this data, but also I can't speak to what then moves at that point once it's been transferred. I have a tiny feeling that with all of your investigations and questions, that we will continue to get the details of what happens next.
I'm talking about the crimes that are now underway today, tomorrow, next month. Is it anyone in this government investigating, anyone that, to your knowledge, at the State Department or connected to it, investigating crimes current and future since the data that has been collected?
Well, first, I'm not going to discuss the details of what the State Department is doing when it comes to its investigations, when it comes to contemplations or negotiations or diplomatic decision-making, whether on any level with any situation, any case that's involved. But what I can point to, I think it's safe to point to, is this nation's history of being involved in making sure that the right thing gets done. There are a number of other entities of which, of course, we are involved, including the United Nations, and, of course, other Europe, or the nations of the civilized world. So I would, same with whether it's aid, this argument that we are stopping our aid and we're out of caring about providing foreign aid. Of course, that's not true. And because one grant dynamic has stopped in this country at one university, that is not the determiner of the nature of the work of the State Department of the United States. That's unfair, frankly, and moves people into this idea that everything is contained in one moment when there are thousands of moments and work going on around the world, but certainly including the nature of what the State Department's doing under the direction of Marco Rubio, when a commitment of the State Department to solve these problems, to stop carnage, to find justice. We want to be safe, secure, and prosperous for ourselves and for our neighbors. So that would not be an accurate conclusion based on this one particular grant. Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Thank you, Tammy. I just want to follow up on the earthquake response. The president said about an hour ago, we are going to be helping. We've already alerted the people. And you're saying, of course, you're waiting if and when those requests come in. So for the disaster response teams. So just wondering if you could clarify, is the State Department going to be doing anything else to help? Are there financial resources that are being devoted to these impacted countries? And then can you also just say what governments you are in contact with?
Well, again, the president, as you noted, had made some comments regarding that, which is terrific. Again, another indication that while the State Department does work on all these issues in general, of course, the president's going to make decisions about where we go and who we assist. When it comes to what we are waiting for here or looking for here, it could be different than what's happening at the White House. And of course, I would refer you to the White House for further information in that regard. Very specific messaging, though, this morning from the State Department with what I was watching internally and to me is that we are ready and we stand ready and we will be ready when the requests emerge. And that's what I know, and that's what will happen. Yeah. All right. Yes.
Just staying on USAID or USAID.
Sure.
Today, USAID Foreign Service Officers received a reduction in force notice. This is hundreds of officers who are based abroad for USAID. Can you confirm that all Foreign Service Officers' positions will be terminated now and that they will all be coming home? And do you have or will there be transparency on how much it's going to cost to bring home hundreds of USAID Foreign Service Officers home, including their families, those, as you know, that have been based abroad and have their whole lives integrated into different countries abroad? Some of them have been working abroad for many, many years.
Yes. The Secretary has mentioned throughout this process, I've mentioned to you, that with any major change, there's going to be disruption. This particular review and project to assess the nature of waste and fraud and abuse and whether or not these programs and the grants align with America's priorities has been public news, worldwide news. We've discussed it openly. We've seen what's happened. And so it's something that I think most people, we've been waiting for this conclusion. It has arrived. I can't speak to the number of people who will not be a Foreign Service officer at this point. I can't say if it's going to be every single one. There'll be a point where I don't have to speak about fluid situations and things that are changing and moving every day. But of course, this is it's a restructuring essentially. And there's going to be, from one statement made, that there'll be from USAID, and a statement about the last mission, if you will, is that like any restructuring, there will inevitably be disruptions. From Secretary Rubio down, we are committed to ensuring that USAID personnel remain safe and that the agency's ongoing life-saving aid programs remain both intact and operational. And it's something that we're committed to. There are periods of time for blocks of individuals to come home and to be separated. But it's dynamic when you're looking at such a reorganization that's going to happen. We will, I'm sure, with this being a public story, have more information every day. And when that's possible, as I seek it out, I will bring it to you. All right.
On the RAF, just
sure.
This note also said that employees will be separated from the Foreign Service effective from the 1st of July. Does that mean that they are not guaranteed an opportunity to apply for jobs inside
Well, no,
the
that's
State
not true.
Department?
There will be jobs that then can be applied for by those who have been separated. I can't tell you how many of those will exist, or even the structure of what that is, but there's been a very specific note that for the jobs that then are open, these individuals, or at least some of them, will be able to apply. So that will be part of it as well. Yes, Daphne.
Thank you. On what you said on the response to the earthquakes, I just wanted to clarify, is that the Disaster Assistance Response Team, the DART, that you're referring to?
DARTs. Yes, it's the DART system.
Okay, great. And how quickly would that team be able to get on site given the contract terminations and the cuts at USAID? Will they be able to respond as quickly as they've been able to in the past?
Well, from what I'm told is that what's been happening at USAID has not affected our ability to employ the DART system as we always have. When it comes to where they are and in that particular location, I can't give you a timeline, but clearly, as said repeatedly, we stand ready, and there's an understanding of what the situation is, and that certainly has not been impeded whatsoever. All right. Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I was also got home at 4 a.m.
Thank you very much.
A lot of the embassies that he's been visiting have also big USAID missions and local staff that are hired for them. So in this reduction, are all the local staff also being fired as you downsize?
Well, the messages I've seen and the guidance I've received is about Foreign Service officers. So I can't speak to where the local staff there fits within that framework. But so if they're not Foreign Service officers, but each mission is in a different dynamic. So I would. I can't speak to that at this point.
And one other question on another topic, Carrie Lake is talking about firing about almost 700 journalists at VOA. For those who are visa holders and from countries that where it might be dangerous for them to return,
yes.
What's the State Department doing, like, to give them time to apply for asylum, or what kind of programs are in place to help people like in that
Yes,
position?
I mean, this is a recurring question. It's an important one, and it's good for people in this situation and other situations. The visa dynamic for people involved in this situation is no different than everyone else who has a visa. That if you're here on a work visa and your job ends, some people have gotten another job on that framework and have then reapplied and have gotten a visa for that new job. If that's not going to happen, of course, there's like a 30-day period of time for you to take action about going home, going to your home country, or not. But then you would be here without a visa illegally. If you are from a country and you cannot return because of fear of what will occur to you if returning to that country, you can apply for asylum. This is true for everyone who holds a visa, who loses that visa, and believes that they would be in trouble going back to their home country. That is an option, and that is something that they can do as well if that's a case that they face. All right. Sir, right there.
Thank you very much. So,
thank you. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Sticking with USAID, one
you.
of its crucial functions was getting humanitarian supplies into Gaza during the conflict there and during the ceasefire. Now, the last tranche of funding that it paid to the partners in the region was end of January. So there's a kind of block here. Will state be taking over this type of function come July the 1st? And what is going to happen for the funding for the partners applying that humanitarian relief in Gaza in the interim?
Well, we're at a state where Congress has just been notified that this transition is happening. I can't speak to the decisions that will be made once that decision occurs through USAID as it exists and how it moves into state. So that's the process that's happening right now. So I don't have something for you on that. But we also know that dynamic is very complicated, as we've talked about every day, importantly, and it remains complicated. And of course, aid can immediately move through that situation through all of our regional partners, people who are concerned. If Hamas were to release its hostages and lay down its arms, how many times Does that need to be reminded? Because that's the solution. And when that does occur, as we saw with the first element of the ceasefire, is that the region cares about this, the nations in the region, the world cares, the United States of America cares, to where its leadership is involved in this as a main North Star of what needs to be solved. All right, yes, ma'am, in the blue, in the blue.
Thank you very much.
Can I follow up on
No, we're moving on. We'll see what we can do here.
Thank you. Going back to the detention of Turkish student Rümeysa Öztürk, because I want to get a clear understanding of why she was detained and on what grounds her visa was revoked. So Rümeysa's lawyer, family, and friends deny the claims made by the administration that she violated the U.S. law. Her lawyer states that Rümeysa has not been accused of committing any crime, and they say she was detained solely for writing an article criticizing Israel. What is your response to that? Was she detained just because she wrote an article expressing her views?
I will not, as many of you already know, I will not speak about something that's in the courts, that's being adjudicated, so that's not going to happen here. I can point to Secretary Rubio's remarks about this on the plane to the reporters as we were returning home last night, is that the DHS, which manages this framework, clearly felt that she had committed crimes that required her detention. And now that will be adjudicated in court, but it's a framework that we would not be commenting on in any regard, regardless of the situation or whom it happens to. As you've noted, it is playing out in court with representatives, and that's where it's going to be.
Is there any possibility that you might make this evidence about her public?
I am not here to comment on what's going to happen in a courtroom or the people who are involved in that court case. It's not my position. It certainly is beyond my purview, and we're going to leave it there. Yes, sir, in the middle.
Thank you, Tammy. Yesterday, Secretary Rubio spoke about his meeting with Turkish Foreign Minister and the theme of that meeting earlier this week. My question is that have they talked about the peace process between Turkish government and the Kurdish fighters in Turkey, and the peace process between Kurds and Turks? Is it something, the matter of your concern?
Here's what I think we know, and again, the Secretary spoke about this a little bit also on the plane. It was he enjoys speaking to the press, and that is helpful for us when it comes to transparency and the American people knowing what's going on. I, of course, and I know why you ask, and everyone wants to know, but I'm not in a position where I'm going to speak about the nature of a conversation between the Secretary of State of the United States and the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia or anyone else in a position in any country where there's discussions about any kind of dynamic involving governance and the choices that those governments make. What I can say, of course, as we know, is that Turkey is an ally, a member of NATO, and the conversations we have are often and deal with issues that are of importance to both countries. So I'm going to leave it there. So yes, sir, with the glasses in the back here.
Oh, thank you. Sergei Yumatov with TASS News Agency.
Uh-huh.
So my question is on Russia and Ukraine. When do you expect the next round of consultations between the American and Russian delegations to occur?
Well, we know, of course, that we have our teams that have returned from the last Saudi Arabian technical framework of what they were working on there. The Secretary has noted in some of his comments that now we have to take a look at what's been accomplished and what we need to be doing, and we will decide at that point about how we proceed. All right? All right. Yes, sir.
Can I move to Lebanon?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you, Tammy. Ahmed Hazim, Al Jazeera. Today, there was some missiles fired in northern Israel from Lebanon. Israel retaliated with airstrikes and artillery in the south and even in the capital, Beirut. My question is that the ceasefire agreement, in it, there is a mechanism for reporting violation or alleged violation of the agreement itself, the ceasefire itself. This mechanism is led by the United States, will include France, UNIFIL, and both parties have to report any violations to the cease agreement. Was this mechanism implemented in this incident?
Well, I can say a few things about this, including Israel is defending its people and interests by responding to rocket attacks from terrorists in Lebanon. As part of the cessation of hostilities agreement, the government of Lebanon is responsible for disarming Hezbollah, and we expect the Lebanese armed forces to disarm these terrorists to prevent further hostilities. The reason that any attacks have happened is because terrorists launched rockets into Israel from Lebanon. That is a violation of the cessation of hostilities. It is a violation of the ceasefire when terrorist groups, when armed groups, shoot rockets into Israel. Whether it's Hezbollah or whether it's Palestinian groups like Hamas, it does not matter. Israel has to respond as the United States would have to respond, or any other country would have to respond in this kind of situation. We stand by Israel, of course, and it's a dynamic that also continues to unfold, but I think it's pretty clear that this is the responsibility of the Lebanese armed forces to disarm the terrorists who are preventing, in order for us to prevent further hostilities. Yes,
Can I have a follow-up? Thank you very much. Several human rights organizations and the media reported that many civilian activities have been arrested in Iranian Kurdistan for participating in Nowruz celebrations. Have you received any reports on this matter, and how would you to describe human rights record in Iran?
Yes,
at this time?
Yes, we are aware of those reports, that the Iranian regime has been arresting Iranian Kurds for participating in those celebrations. The regime is one of the world's worst violators of human rights, oppressing the Iranian people to maintain its grip on power and curtailing their exercise of fundamental freedoms. In Iran, the freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and religion are completely ignored. The regime unjustly executes more people than any other country, persecutes members of religious and ethnic minority groups, and uses tactics like arbitrary arrest and torture and other violations to intimidate political opponents and squash dissent. We will continue to support and defend the human rights of the people of Iran against the regime's continued human rights abuses and authoritarian repression. All right. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Tammy. Very quick question. Axios reported yesterday that a new U.S. proposal was submitted to reignite the ceasefire talks and so on. Can you share with us anything about the status of this peace proposal that was submitted by the United States? Is it gaining traction? What is next?
Yes, I can't speak to that today, but we are, again, next week returning we're going to have a Monday briefing, and I have a feeling you might have another question, and I will be answering your question tomorrow, but we'll do that.
Can
Daphne.
I follow up on...
we're going to Daphne here, but yes, thank you.
Just on the Panama Canal, today China's...
The Panama Canal, all right.
Sorry.
Yes. No, it's all right. No, it's okay. We're here. We're good.
Okay. Today, China's market regulator said it will carry out an antitrust review on the Hong Kong's C.K. Hutchinson's proposed sale of 2 Panama ports to BlackRock to, as Beijing said, protect fair competition and safeguard public interests. What is the U.S. response to that move by Beijing, and what's your message to Panama, which has an audit pending over the company's concessions to operate those ports?
All righty. So we are aware of the comments made by China. It's also no surprise that the CCP is upset at this acquisition, which will reduce their control over the Panama Canal area. We are also glad to see U.S. investors acquire a controlling stake in the Panama Ports Company, which owns and operates the ports of Balboa and Cristobal at either end of the Panama Canal. So we would refer you to BlackRock and C.K. Hutchinson for more information about the agreement itself. And we refer you to the government of Panama regarding its role in ensuring that the sale complies with Panamanian laws and regulations. So yes, we're aware, and it's not a surprise, certainly. All right, yes, pink jacket.
Thank you. Back to Turkey. Is there a confirmed date for President Erdogan's visit to the White House in April out of Foreign Minister Fidan's meeting with Secretary Rubio on Tuesday?
Not that I'm aware of, but again, the White House may have more information on that for you.
They are not very responsive.
In the white shirt here. You just sat down, sir. One moment, please. In the white shirt, please.
Thank you very much. On Georgia.
I'm sorry.
On Georgia, if I may.
Okay, sure.
Georgia. Thank you very much. Have you had any communication with the ruling party in Georgia? And if so,
could you share what type of communication exists between you now? You know that the situation in Georgia is very difficult. The Georgian people and the international community do not recognize the election results. Peaceful protesters have been arrested, as well as an independent journalist who's currently in jail. Okay. So, given these circumstances, what is your perspective on the situation in Georgia?
I do want to answer that, and as a result, we're going to take that back, and we will have an answer for you. All right? All right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can. Sorry to jump to another region, but I wanted to ask you.
It's everywhere. There's news everywhere.
South Sudan.
Sure.
Do you have the State Department have any comment on the situation there, which is on the brink of plunging back into the civil war? The vice president was put under house arrest, the situation is pretty dire. So I was wondering if the U.S. State Department has any comment on that.
Well, of course, there's been news on this, the dire situation, I think, throughout the area, and then whether it's North Darfur, et cetera. So we are concerned about a number of issues that are unfolding, and that, too, I'm going to have to get some updated information on, because what I'm seeing here is I'd like something new, some updates there. So we'll have that. We'll bring that back for you for sure. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jahan Saibali from Airway News, Pakistan.
Okay.
For the last few months, we have seen a rise in terrorist activities in Pakistan. Hundreds of civilians and security officials lost their lives. And Pakistan is a partner country, recently handed over the most wanted terrorists to U.S. authorities. And these all terrorist networks are based in Afghanistan, TTP, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Pakistan is kind of war against terrorism. So how you guys see this kind of situation, like all those terrorist networks established and working under the umbrella of Taliban?
Well, it's a dynamic where we're aware of certain problems, human rights issues, et cetera. But again, we seem to be in a series here of things that I want to take back on this. So I'm going to take that back. If you don't mind, we're going to go on. Okay, what I do want to discuss here, sir, and if someone has, I want to discuss the Hezbollah sanctions that we have going on as well. I know that many of you might be interested in that as well. But let's go on. I'm not going to start to try to direct what we're saying.
I have one more.
Let's go on. Let's go on here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was I was about to ask about the Hezbollah. You can talk a little bit about the sanctions and also the Lebanese foreign minister with the Syrian one signed an agreement for the border in Syria between Syria and Lebanon. If you have also something on that.
Yes, yes, we do. So first, let's start here with Hezbollah. The United States is designating 5 individuals and 3 entities pursuant to Executive Order 13224 as amended for ties to U.S.-designated Hezbollah or individuals designated through this action. The action advances President Trump's maximum pressure policy on Iran and its proxies. We will continue to disrupt the complex schemes Hezbollah uses to conceal its illicit behavior and acquire revenue to fund its malign activities. And the United States, will take decisive action against anyone involved in facilitating Iran's oil sales at any stage of the supply chain. We are exerting maximum pressure on Iran and its terrorist proxies under the President's maximum pressure policy to disrupt Iran's destabilizing activities. The Department of Treasury is designating, again, 5 individuals, 3 entities for supporting a sanctions evasion network affiliated with Hezbollah's finance team. This action is part of the United States' effort to deny Hezbollah access to revenue and to cut off the terrorist group's access to the international financial system. Today's designations support the whole-of-government policy of maximum pressure on Iran and its terrorist proxies, such as Hezbollah, as detailed in the National Security Presidential Memorandum 2 of February 4th. The United States, use all of its tools to disrupt activities of individuals and companies supporting Hezbollah. The United States is committed to working with partners to disrupt terrorism and terrorist financing worldwide. All right. Yes, sir. And this will be it. This will be the last. So make it good.
I'm going to go back to the very first question.
All right, sure. Make a good circle.
The issue of Ukrainian children. The president was asked about Ukraine just a couple of hours ago, and he did highlight the issue of Ukrainian children.
He did.
It looks like this is something he cares about. To deliver on the president's stated goal, even if this funding will run out of this very particular program, can you assure us that you will be supporting alternative programs, at least, to deliver on that?
Well, I think the biggest, most amazing program can be the most powerful man in the world caring about the resolution of the issue. That is something that nothing can match. And that's what we have now. And you are correct. I think it's clear for anyone who listens to President Trump that he is a serious person, addresses issues that matter to him directly, that he knows will make an impact on the quality of people's lives. That is the Trump effect. And the fact that he is successful in the choices he makes and that he is relentless in making them work has an impact on the resolution of those issues. As far as what mechanisms he will use, I don't know. He's the President of the United States. He's the best deal maker in the world. And those children matter to him. And it matters that that issue is resolved like it does to every decent human being on this planet. President Trump represents the notion of that outrage and the desire to solve the problem in the process of getting to the end of this horrible carnage that has gone on. So yes, I can't tell you what mechanism he would choose. We do know that he's chosen a Secretary of State who feels as passionately about the resolution of these issues as he does. We are going to continue to see that unfolding, and it is, while horrible issues we're facing, it is an exciting time because we have leadership that are tired of the status quo, want results, care about people, and are going to do what it takes to get results. And that's what I have for you today. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you also on Monday. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Well, live from the State Department right there, you saw Tammy Bruce addressing a number of questions of a number of topics from across the globe and any domestic issues as well there. So it is now the bottom of the hour, about 3:30. So that will conclude our broadcast during the day. Now tonight at about 5 o'clock, it may be actually now 6 o'clock, but we do know that we'll be having our coverage from Florida for Byron Donalds having a rally there, a hometown campaign rally for his governorship bid there in that state. So he's going to be having that official rally today. We'll have live coverage from Florida. That's Bonita Springs for that live coverage. Looking forward to that coming up here. Again, 3:30 Eastern. Let's thank a few sponsors. Colonial Metals Group. All you have to do is go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. You'll get some great information there. An info kit, all for free, about gold and silver. Just go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN as well. If you're looking for a lot of great products, more than 2,000 products, you can see that right there on your screen. More than up to 50% off. Pretty good percent off of some great products there. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of the products. My family and I, we have them too. And it's always good to get fresh products or even other ones that we don't have. Obviously, we don't have all 2,000, so there's plenty to buy at mypillow.com/RSBN. All right, we will see you guys a little bit later for Friday evening coverage of the great Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida, who is now putting his hat in the ring for the governorship of Florida. So he'll have a rally in Bonita Springs a bit later. It looks like we may be starting at 5 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Eastern. Just check your, as they used to say, your local listings. But check your Rumble and YouTube and all over the place for the specific start time of that. We'll be getting that here soon, as it's 3:31 Eastern time for all of us, including Robert McNeely, who was here throughout the day, and myself, Matthew Alvarez, and everybody behind the scenes here at the network. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you a bit later tonight.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hello, this is Mike Huckabee. President Trump said he wants to take back the White House and teach our kids to love our country. That's why my team created a kids guide to President Trump. It'll teach your kids all about President Trump's accomplishments and his vision for America. And right now, I want to give it to you for free as part of this free gift bundle.
Get your free gift bundle featuring the Kids Guide to President Trump, a free kids magazine, and the Great Again video lesson by visiting freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.